Thank you. Alrighty. Thank you, Ange. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our August board meeting. I will begin by acknowledging and respecting the Indigenous people within whose lands we are meeting today. And I'll ask for an adoption. Well, we're actually going to start with a moment of silence on behalf of Chief Schneider from the North Shore. And Director Newell is going to say a few words. Over to you, Director Newell.
Thank you. This was written by Jay Marshall, who took over as chief when Chief Schneider, Fred Schneider, retired in 2019. And Jay is a longtime volunteer at the North Shore Fire Hall and colleague of Fred's. And then I'll just add a few words that I added to when we put out our ENF newsletter last week. It is with deep sadness, this is from Jay, it is with deep sadness that we share the passing of Chief Fred Schneider on July 29th with his loved ones by his side. Fred had many passions and loved volunteering and helping people. In 1983, he joined the North Shore Volunteer Fire Department, where he rose from firefighter to lieutenant to captain, and then in 2003, deputy chief. In 2013, he was promoted to chief and kept that role until his retirement in 2019. Chief Fred Schneider dedicated 36 years to the North Shore Volunteer Fire Department. He remains the longest serving member in the department's history. Chief Schneider was more than a leader. He was a steadfast servant to his community. His legacy of commitment, courage, and compassion will live on in the hearts of all who had the privilege to know and serve alongside him. As a side note, Chief Schneider's father, Arvid, was instrumental in establishing and designing the North Shore Volunteer Fire Department. Our thoughts are with his family and all those mourning his loss. In the Nelson Star on August 7th edition, there's a beautiful in loving memory on page 20. For those of you that would like to know a bit more about Fred's life, he was an amazing community person, volunteer, hockey, everything. And I just wanted to add a few words personally. When I was elected as Area Director in November of 2014, I knew nothing, in brackets embarrassingly, of the volunteer fire department's operation. Chief Schneider was tireless, patient, and kind in teaching me about the fire hall. I quickly learned the complexity of the chief's role in running a volunteer fire hall. What seemingly to me was pretty straightforward part-time gig, I quickly learned was this huge operation that was running behind the scenes for many of us rural residents. And the role of chief, well, it was and is huge. The paperwork, the budgets, the many dedicated volunteers, the immense amount of required training, the massive amount of equipment, the vehicles, the maintenance of the fire hall, and managing emergencies in the middle of the night. The chief walked me through all this and much, much more. And then the lease expired on the land of which the fire hall had lived since the early 80s. And then began a 2-year journey of purchasing the 1-acre parcel. And Fred's involvement was instrumental in closing the complex transition. Chief retired in 2019 after 36 years as a volunteer. And my condolences to the chief's wife, Mary Lou, his family, and so many friends. Thank you, Fred.
Moment of fun. Thank you so much, Director Newell. Thank you very much. Condolences to the family and thank you to the family for all the contributions over the years. Okay. I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda, please. Thank you, Lockwood, Jackman. Any additions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? Thank you. And the adoption of the minutes from July. Thank you, Jackman. Popoff, any corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. DAO, you have some introductions for aid?
Yeah, through the chair, one this month, Chance Sheffield joins us as our newest emergency program coordinator, replacing John Jackson, who you recall passed away a couple of months ago. So we've filled that position, and Chance joins us with a lot of experience in his former role. So we're looking forward to having him on the table.
And I don't see him online.
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay, we have a delegation this morning, 2.51, and then we know Ken is in the room, and Ken, your counterpart is online. And who is that if you want to turn on your camera? Steve. Hi, Steve.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome.
Well, thank you for having us. We really appreciate this opportunity to share with you some information around the creation of a new organization called Forestry Works for BC. And can I share my screen with you? Would that be the best way?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you, Steve, can you see me on the screen?
Yes. Hi,
So
Amy.
Hi, Steve. I'll give you a little too when you're close to about 12 minutes.
All right.
You have 20 max.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, we're going to try to do this in 10 minutes and then leave some time for some discussion if that's what the directors wish. Yeah, thank you so much again for having us and giving us an opportunity to share with you some exciting developments. So we are Forestry Works for BC. You can see my screen here, and I will just. So yeah, what we do. So the goal of this organization is to just help encourage people in British Columbia to be proud of forestry. And there's many reasons to be proud of forestry and in your area, like I just spent a few days, almost a week, up in Fauquier, and I went up to Harriet Proctor. Eric Leslie toured me around the community forest there. I visited all three Kalishnikov manufacturing operations. I spent some time going through the Celgar pulp mill. And I know from my previous role in the Forest Enhancement Society of BC that there's many amazing forestry projects being done by really talented and creative people in your regional district. So hats off to you. So what we are doing as an organization, we're a not-for-profit society. Our goal is to help people who appreciate forestry and all the things that it can do for people. And there's quite a few reasons why. Primarily, I think what would resonate with most people who don't happen to live in a rural area is the fact that the BC forest management is governed by some of the strictest laws in the world. And that ensures that a lot of values are being managed for. Uh, the provincial government uh, conducts regular compliance and enforcement inspections of forestry operations throughout British Columbia. And what they find is there's an extremely high rate of compliance. And so that's something that we can all be proud of. There's also reassurance in the fact that the majority of forestry operations in British Columbia are certified by an independent third-party uh, organization that just checks to make sure that everything is being done in accordance with the laws and the regulations and good forest management. We also have the fact that British Columbia forestry is powering bioenergy in a huge way. Like in my hometown where I live, Williams Lake, we have a cogen facility that burns waste wood. And they have the capacity to generate enough electricity for 50,000 homes. And yet we only have 20,000 homes in our community. So we're a net exporter to the grid. And the same with Celgar. they're producing a lot of electricity from wood waste and pushing that power back onto the grid. So that's great for bioenergy. And there's pellet plants and lots of heat. There's communities that are being heated by wood now, just like some cities in Finland and Sweden. And so it's great to see that British Columbia is also, capturing this bioenergy and allowing people to use it. So when you turn on your light switch, some of that electricity is coming from wood. Pretty amazing. And we see a lot of communities all around British Columbia and certainly can see it in your regional district that communities are taking the threat of wildfire risks very seriously and taking action to reduce those risks. And in doing that, they're often restoring those forests to a more natural state where, fire has historically gone through. It's more open. There's more seeds, berries for the animals, and the whole food chain benefits. And so it's leading to a complementary goals of ecosystem restoration and wildfire risk reduction, and utilizing that woody biomass for so many great things. And so who we are is, as I say, we're a not-for-profit society. We initially, our membership started with a bunch of associations, trade associations in the forest sector, representing over 10,000 workers. And we're adding new members every week. The economic contribution of forestry is huge. You may already know some of this, but yeah, 24% of exports from British Columbia are wood products, forest products, and supports almost 50,000 direct jobs and another 50,000 of indirect jobs. So, smaller than it used to be in decades past, but still a very significant economic contributor to our well-being in British Columbia. And so, what we think that a lot of people don't realize, particularly in urban metro areas, is that they've been told that planting trees is good, but they don't necessarily really know why it's good. And I think the primary environmental benefit of growing trees is that they absorb carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas. And as they grow, trees are like people. We absorb carbon dioxide into our bodies, or we're carbon-based life forms, and we store that carbon until one day when we die. And then that carbon goes back into the atmosphere. So in solid wood products, that carbon stored in your furniture or in the wooden frame of your house, that carbon is stored there and not being emitted to the atmosphere for decades or even hundreds of years. And in the case of bioenergy, the energy that we can create from wood, electricity and heat, um, can often displace energy that otherwise would have been produced from fossil fuels, which is a net contributor to greenhouse gases. And as I said, uh, doing all this forest management also results in healthier habitats for wildlife and safer communities from wildfire. So this photo you see on the screen here is a stand, what forestry people call a stand, which is a group of trees growing together in a forest community. And these trees are young and healthy and growing, and they are absorbing literally tons and tons of carbon dioxide each and every year as they grow, and they're storing it. Um, One of our messages is that we need forestry, a strong forest sector in British Columbia to, if we want to meet our greenhouse gas reduction goals, uh, and we want to have healthy environments for wildlife and safer communities, we need forest management. And you probably, most of you directors know this already, so I don't mean to, but I'm just saying that our primary audience are the people that don't know, and they would typically be in the metro areas of British Columbia. So our mission is to help them understand what the benefits are and help them realize that they have a connection to forestry, even if they live in downtown Vancouver. We're seeing increasing support across the board from local government officials, particularly those, First Nations and regional district directors that live, work, and play in our forests, and they've lived alongside and inside the forest for their whole lives, and they appreciate and understand the value of forest management. So if you or somebody you know wants to get more involved and help spread the word, you can check out the Forestry Works for BC website. You can encourage discussions. You have a convention coming up at UBCM. There's lots of conversations occur there. And linking, some of our society's goals, which is reducing the wildfire risk to communities, taking more action on climate change, creating bioenergy and sustainable jobs in our communities, then and forestry can do all of those things. So if you can talk about that amongst your colleagues, that will help. So I will stop there. I don't know how many minutes that was, Amy. It's always more than it feels like.
Very good timing. I'll just check in with Ken in the room. Is there anything you want to add, Ken? And then we'll go to questions.
No, Steve and I are gonna tag team the questions.
All right. Good teamwork. Okay, then. Thank you, Steve. We'll go ahead to questions now. Remain unmuted. So I have Director Tierney and Jackman so far. Go ahead, Director Tierney.
Thank you, Mr. Kleshnikov, for this presentation today, very timely. How is the province, how is the industry doing in finding additional markets for BC lumber products?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. We, those of us that are in the industry kind of cringe a little bit when people start talking about that. The industry naturally looks for markets all the time. We're always in different markets. We're always getting different requests. When I was just getting started in sales, my dad passed it on, and by about 1990, we were exporting over 80% of our product. We were in Australia and Asia and Europe, all over. So the markets are there, there's no question, but it's not a silver bullet and it's not easy. And a lot of it is gonna go to evolving nations like India, for example. They're putting some work into trying to get more wood into India and because of the population and the growth of the country there, but it's not an easy one. It isn't. The markets, you tend to find each other. It's almost like a magnet. So I think the effort is gonna increase. I think there's some things that the federal government is doing that is fantastic. That I did not know this, that the things between provinces, the restriction we have between provinces is absolutely ridiculous. I had no idea just to the extent that it is. So I think BC Canada as a country has an opportunity to trade a little more on the market space. But the rest it's not easy.
Thank you.
Jackman?
Sure, thank you, through the chair to here, I guess. We often see a lot of competing interests on the land, which is fine. And I tend to hear a lot of people saying they're looking for geomitigation, risk reduction, that kind of thing, before events occur. I think a lot of people are leaning heavily to that. However, what's concerned me a little bit is after a fire, I see a lot of resistance, and maybe it's due to a lack of opportunity to talk it through. Resistance to salvage and replanting. And I mean, the Boswell-based fire that burned across 9 drainages, 9 watersheds, for example, raised a lot of fear. Like, oh, it's burned now, leave it alone. Are you guys able to provide a little better insight and outreach to the community about the pros and cons of replanting? And in the one case, it was a mixed forest replanting for faster regeneration versus the don't touch it, let's see what happens, because it could get worse if you go in there. It's very controversial. Are you working on it?
Yeah, I think Steve, I'll start and then you can jump in, because you've got some experience with this. From our perspective, when we see an area that got burned, we need to assess it, we need to look at all those things, no question. But we need to act on it. Just leaving it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. Marie, every time I drive to Christina Lake, I drive past that fire that's above Castle Garden. It's like, okay, are we gonna get to this thing eventually here or what? And as the trees keep falling on the highway and shutting the road down, it's like a lot of this stuff doesn't make any sense. I think there's an opportunity to hit all attributes of what's on the land base, try to really work with everybody's concerns. There's some people that it doesn't matter what we say, they're just never gonna agree. So we need to then figure out, okay, how are we gonna get past that? And if we have 80% support, then I think we need to move forward. I truly, there are some instances, and again, Steve could probably talk about this better than I. Those of us that drive to Kelowna, you leave Rock Creek, that fire burned so hot that it ruined the soil. So to me, I always start with, we need to prevent the fires. We need to manage the forest. Those of you that are gonna go to UBCM, or, you know, in the fall, if you're gonna drive and you drive through Manning Park, have a good look. It's a disaster. And it's a sad, very sad situation, and we could have easily managed that so that we don't have to worry about the fire. Because now something is gonna happen, it's not just gonna stay the way it is. Those trees are either gonna fall down and rot, or, and then a lot of people will say, well, that's good for biodiversity, well, to a point. And then otherwise you're gonna have a fire, or it's gotta get cut, and it's a real tough situation. To your point though, we are trying to educate the public to make sure that they understand that there are some ways to be able to work together and come up with a good solution. Steve, I think you should jump in on this one, because from your experience, I think you had some really good insight.
Yeah, I have a lot of experience. Most of my career is with industry. I also spent 12 years with the provincial government, and I'm a professional forester. There is a diversity of opinion out there, and it largely hinges on what your priority is. And so what we've seen, and I was just meeting with Harrop Proctor, for example, their priority and their motivation for managing their own local forest is protecting their drinking water. And so, as Ken said, the best thing to do is to prevent those catastrophic, super intense mega fires, because if you get that, then your drinking water is declines the quality in terms of the sediments and whatnot. So, um, having smaller disturbances spaced over time will protect your drinking water, and that's what the residents largely throughout British Columbia have come to realize. If, and we're in a situation now where we protected these forests for so many decades, that, and combined with climate change, we're getting mega fires. And when that happens, then the question is, what's the best thing to do? And if your priority is drinking water and hydrological, managing the runoff and preventing landslides, then probably the best thing to do is to reestablish a forest as quickly as possible. And to do that, usually you need to remove the dead timber and then reforest by planting trees rather than waiting 20 years for nature to take its course. For wildlife habitat, you want to accelerate the recovery of all of those values that you want, and and create those more natural, ecologically and environmentally, climatically resilient forests going forward. So some salvage, leaving some as it is, makes sense in some other areas, but I understand your question, and and there's delays in getting there. Even if, the companies do get permission, after 2 or 3 years after a fire, they generally just walk away because it's deteriorated so bad that there's very little, if any, economic value left in salvaging. Um, I can tell you that a lot of salvage does occur throughout the province, not all of it. And sometimes, if you're driving down a particular piece of road and you see something that was left and abandoned, then it can really get at you. But I think for the most part, a lot of the burnt timber and the beetle damaged timber and other damaged timber is salvaged in the working forest. And I think that's another point to bring up. In terms of what's available to be harvested, one of the facts that Forestry Works wants to bring to the public's attention is the fact that about two-thirds, 63% of the province's forests will unlikely ever be harvested because they're already in protected areas and old growth management areas, or they're just uh, operationally not feasible to conduct operations on. So the working forest is really currently only about one-third of the forest that we have. And so salvaging those areas as quickly as possible, reforesting and accelerating the recovery of those values makes sense to a lot of people. But there's still going to be people that are skeptical, and fair enough. They think that there's always some kind of corporate profit motive to get in there and log those dead trees. That's not the case. If they wanted to profit, they would want to profit the healthy forest, not the dead forest. Their motivation from a forest management perspective is to use that wood while it still has some economic life and to accelerate the recovery of those values.
Thank you. So I just want to, we have less than 5 minutes and 3 questions. So I'm just going to ask folks to be succinct so we can fit it all in. Good information. I've got Popoff and Newell. Go ahead, Popoff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The first step is, I know Kolesnikov lumber has survived through the downturn in the lumbering industry or whatever, not only survived, but expanded. Frankly, with your mass timber productions, Castlegar and Playmore providing employment, etc. One of your marketing people, Griff Augustine, was one of the people that I coached in baseball. And he was the one that was looking after the Japan market. Now, the question would be, have you increased your exports to Japan? And the second question, I regret to say that I didn't read all the presentation completely, but is community forests involved in your organization, like MAFCOR and CIPCO?
I'll start with that one first. Community forests are always involved. We're always in communication with them and we're doing business with them all the time. Sometimes we buy the wood, sometimes it goes to other people, but we're always in communication with them. We're actually a pretty big supporter of community forests. On the market side, the Japanese market is no different than any other market. Well, it's gone up, it's gone down. We had a stage there probably over the last, well, for the last 2 months, it's picked up again, but before that, it almost went away. Like it got really slow. Japan has a real problem with population, right? They don't allow a lot of immigration, and so their population is going down. Their young people are not creating families, let's put it that way. And so their housing starts are way down, and so they've been really backed off for a while. But we're seeing a little bit more business here just lately.
Director Newell.
Yeah, on the educational front through the chair, maybe Steve or Ken. So education, how much, it's two-parter, how much replanting actually occurs after a company has done logging? And what species are planted? I.e., is it just your mono planting? Anyway.
I think Steve, I'll start, you can do this one too, this is an expertise for you. I'm constantly surprised and embarrassed that people don't know we plant trees. It's absolutely appalling for me. We legally, as licensees, have to plant trees. There's a regulation that after 10 years, we have to have free to grow. That means those trees have to be a certain size and a certain health, and we don't talk about that enough, which is exactly what Forestry Works for BC is about for me. Like, we have to educate the public that this is happening, and you know, one thing that Steve said that just has to resonate with people is the fact that we're only working on probably even less than a third, but a third of the province is forested ground. There's already so much put aside. And yet we keep asking for more, and it's difficult for me. We need to manage the forest, and I can't say that enough times. I don't care if it's a park or not or what. We have to make sure that those stands stay healthy. But to your point, when we replant, my grandfather tried to replant a lodgepole pine stand with Douglas fir. The lodgepole took over and killed the fir. So you basically plant what is native to that piece of ground. You can try and change things somewhat, but not too much. But Steve, you're way better versed at this than me.
Yeah, well, part A, the answer is 100% of the areas that are commercially harvested are reforested. And that's not just speculation. That's backed up by vigorous inspections by government and third parties, and it's the law. And as Ken says, so there shouldn't be really a bunch of questions. But fair enough. I mean, I'm glad when that question does come out because it gives us an opportunity to answer it unequivocally. In terms of the species that are chosen to reforest with, that is up to the individual prescribing professional. And it's similar to if you go to see a medical doctor, the doctor will decide what prescription you're going to receive and whether or not it's medication or whatever it is. And it's the same thing with forest sites because forests and places on the earth are like people. Every place is a little bit different and it requires a professional to assess. Uh, they will prescribe reforesting with species that matches, and this is again by law, that must match the species that would be there naturally. And generally, as a rule of thumb, as you go from south to north in this province, the amount of species diversity decreases. So in the southern BC, you have what's called the Kootenay mix. You have 10, 12, maybe more species. I just saw some up at Duncan Lake and Fauquier and around Castlegar. It's just amazing. So there's a large number of choices to plant with when you're in the south. When you're in the north of Prince George, there may only be 2 or 3 species that are commercially valuable, pine and spruce and maybe some alpine fir. And so sometimes, and there was a time in the period of the 80s, I will fully acknowledge that it was expedient to plant 100% lodgepole pine in the plateau areas in the northern part of BC. And it wasn't terrible because often that's what was there naturally before humans became, actively managing that commercially. Uh, but today I think it's fair to say that every site there's a careful consideration as to what species to plant, and often that I've seen personally, it's a prescribed mix of species for not only for biodiversity, but it's also a hedge against plantation failure. If there's a disease or an insect that comes in and attacks one species, well, at least you've got other species to fall back on. And I personally don't know of any forest professional that wouldn't be thinking in that manner.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we're out of time. We have a really big agenda, so I'm going to cut myself off as a question, but I'll plant a seed. I'll follow up. I assume you'll be at UBCM.
Yeah, I think we're gonna travel it.
Okay, great. Well, I generally see you down there. The seed I want to plant is you actually suggested an idea to me at Logger Sports many, many years ago regarding watersheds and how to integrate that aspect of that's what you're left with logging and it's people's drinking water and it's also our stability for communities. So I'd love to follow up with you on how you see that working in today's climate.
Yeah, I keep putting that bug in every ministry.
Yeah. I appreciated it very much, Ken. I wanted people to know that you think of all those aspects. So thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you guys off. If you see our agenda, we got a lot to do in a day.
It's okay. We appreciate the time you've given us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Steve, and we'll see you at UBCM.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye, everybody. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
Steve. All right, folks. So we're going to keep going, obviously. Director Main 3.1. This is a motion we referred from last month. So over to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, directors, for this opportunity to address you. RDCK participation in FCM can't be measured in what we alone get back from the participation of 2 delegates. FCM, as you know, is the conduit for over 2,000 local governments throughout Canada to articulate in advance to the federal government the role of municipalities and rural communities. FCM works for the benefit and increased agency of local governments, as well as the provision of numerous programs and funding streams that we and every Canadian community rely on for many of our initiatives, both large and small. So why should you endorse me to seek another committee appointment? I'll give you 2 examples of the work I've done at FCM since first being elected there in 2015. Representing RDCK, I was instrumental in advancing the 2017 intercommunity transportation resolutions. Those 2 emergency resolutions resulted in meetings with transportation ministers of a government that was previously ignoring the effects of the withdrawal of Greyhound from Canada. Those meetings culminated in the Highway of Tears bus service and permanent funding administered through FCM for rural transportation Canada-wide. Secondly, in my capacity as a member of the previous Standing Committee on Conference Planning, I organized several committee colleagues to get the first working group on rural content, which pushed for increasing rural content at all FCM annual conferences, noted particularly this last year in the front and center rural plenaries and workshops. This would not have happened without robust rural representation, including RDCK's 2 representatives, myself and Director Hewitt, as board directors and non-board committee members. Director Hewitt and I have been able to ensure RDCK's presence on more committees than one director can sit on, thus having influence on more topics of importance to us and to other rural constituencies. I ran for federal office in the recent election, which has given me an even deeper understanding of some of the challenges inherent in federal municipal relations, as well as the complexities of collaboration among all orders of government. My work ethic and creative thought processes are well known to FCM, and I would be pleased as punch to serve on committees for the next 2 years. I have served RDCK well at the Federation. I dearly wish to continue doing so, and I urge you to vote in favor of my endorsement. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Director Main. Director Popoff, you're first on the list.
Yeah, I'd like to move the resolution and then speak to it if I may.
Is there a second? It's seconded. You can speak to it. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the resolution is the same one that I moved in July, so I will not read it out.
Okay.
But I've noticed the difference with having representation, the 2 directors that represent regional district at FCM are, as Director May mentioned, and Director Hewitt. I've been going to FCM ever since I was initially elected, and most of the plenaries and the workshops were towards bigger municipalities. When I say bigger municipalities, 100,000 or more, not geared to our regional district, which we have municipalities that are what I would consider rural, but they consider that, you know, they did not consider them. So we had good representation, and last year was the first year that I've seen workshops geared toward rural areas where us rural people with populations of 5,000 or 60,000 with the regional district had an opportunity to ask questions. Affordable housing was one of the key issues at FCM at that time. And one of the questions was asked, affordable housing is great. You know, they can build it in municipalities, they've got 100,000, they've got the services there to provide them, water, sewer. When you take a look at our municipalities and our rural areas, we don't have ample water. We don't have ample sewer. Like you take a look at Silverton or New Denver or Caswell, they still work on a septic system. So for us to make affordable housing affordable, we need those services, and we need funding from the federal government to support us in that respect. So I would strongly support still sending the 2 people that we have that have experience, that have already been there and can advocate on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Popoff. Director Fact.
Yeah, through the chair, I guess, to staff, just wanted to clarify, my understanding is that the Small Communities Fund will pay not just for directors on the FCM board, but also for some of the committee member expenses. Is that still the case?
Yeah, through the chair, yes, it is.
And so to follow up, it might be more clear because the second being further resolved that the RDCK assumes all costs, et cetera. For committee and board of director meetings, maybe we should just state clearly, not otherwise covered by FCM Small Communities Fund.
Would you accept
Because
that?
my understanding is this is not a big burden.
That's right.
So just to the chair, just in terms of the reference of the term, it's UBCM Travel Fund. Yeah. The Small Communities Fund supports small communities actually sending directors to the FCM conference. So it's just a different, UBCM Travel Fund.
So I'm just gonna check to see with the mover if we could accept that as a friendly amendment.
Before I do, I'd like Director Main to respond to that. She's more familiar with the funding.
Yeah, so the actual resolution before you is copied verbatim from the FCM website. And so I would suggest not changing anything there, with the understanding that UBCM does reimburse RDCK for accommodation and travel to the FCM board sets.
Okay, thank you. So I think we're, McFadden. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Jackman, does that
No,
work for you?
that's fair enough, just to bring the information.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. So I think I've asked this before and I don't think we've gotten an answer. Maybe I didn't, I don't remember. So what is the cost to the RDCK? like on an average in a year, we've done this for a few years now, what has been the cost for the RDCK to send 2 members instead of 1?
Through the chair, on average, it's about 3,000 per person.
Per meeting.
No,
Per
annually.
year.
Annually.
Total.
So 6,000 on average. We've got 2023 was just over 5, 2024 was just under 7. So about an average of 6 for the past 2 years.
Okay, further discussion, Cunningham, oh, sorry, McLaren Co. and then Cunningham.
Thanks, Chair. Director McFadden has asked my first question. My second, it's not really a question, but I think this is a good opportunity to raise not so much the specifics of this request, but that we have, I know it's in the work plan, but that we have a better policy around, because there was interest last meeting. So anyway, the fact that I know the timing's off because of the FCM appointments and generally do our own appointments in December. But I think there should be, and maybe this is an executive conversation to start, but we should have a conversation about where this lives and how it lives, because I think there's a process issue here that needs to be resolved also.
So it is in the work plan to develop a policy. McFadden moved that motion a year ago, so it's just not been the top priority for all the other policies we're developing, but it is on the work plan. So I don't know that we need to discuss it again, but we can definitely review with Mike at executive where it's at. Okay, Cunningham, and then Paige, and if we can all be mindful of time, that would be super appreciated.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to point out that the reason we all are able to go to FCM, of course, is because of one of the former executive of FCM, Mayor Moore from Castlegar. And she was the one who passed the resolution that said that as small communities as part of the regional district is the founder, but all the small communities are members. So we are all members, and that gives us way more say than just say Castle by itself or anybody of the other communities by itself. And as a result of that, I mean, as a result of Mayor Moore doing that, I went to the first time we were allowed to have representation. I was invited to, to the first meeting, and consequently, of course, as you know, I became a board member for FCM. And because of me being the board member through the administrations of Director Moore, we got the gas tax. And I was there when we got that gas tax. And we talk about that $500 million like it was nothing, but it was a big pile of loot at the time, and it's not since. And this is because we have had consistently, this board has had active representation for the last 30 years on FCM. And because we talk about, the needs of the small communities. When the gas tax first came up, the executive was sitting in the room when the minister came in and he said, well, I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is I have $500 million for you guys for, as you may recall, like the gas tax thing. And he says, the bad news is I need an answer by how you're going to spend it by tomorrow afternoon. And this was in the evening. So we had an all-night meeting with the large committees, if I may quickly, said, the Vancouver's, said, well, we'll just give it a basis of so many dollars per person. And we said, no, because what are you gonna do with, or New Denver gonna do with $300 or $400? You know, what's the good is that? We said, listen, we have to have a base amount, and what we started with was $50,000 per community, and then we could talk about so much per person. And as a result, we as individual communities, as a regional district, get way more money than we would have otherwise. And that's because we here as a regional district have been there to talk about these things. I certainly advocate for the continuation of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Cunningham. Director Page.
Yeah, I went through my own council only passed resolution on Tuesday for support the same, and I thought that talking with the mayor, it's appropriate to kind of get that conversation at city council. That's why you don't see my name here in this round. It wasn't necessary. I will just flag the UBCM travel fund is no longer being contributed to per FCM's decision, and so that is a fund that is being depleted. It will last through this term, but our policy will need to come into place because at some point it will go away. Once it's completed, it's not being renewed currently. And the other piece is for whatever policy we talk about, let's think too about how, when we have municipal directors, how are we anticipating consent from both tables, and what does that look like? And this is This is just talking on the policy basis. I'm in full support of Director Main, receiving this endorsement, I think, from, capacity building, from a professional development standpoint, from a bringing our lived experience and our voices rural, as Cunningham has been saying, are all really important aspects for why we would engage the organization on this federal level. So I support that, but where that lives in the budget, how we deal when there's multiple stakeholders, being represented with such a standing, and then what we're gonna do once that travel fund is no longer something we can pull from. I think we all need to figure that out, and how we bring these forward, I think, too, is just good work to get done, so.
Okay, thanks. So in the interest of time, I'm going to ask that we focus on the motion in front of us, and the policy will come to us. We'll work on the timing on that, but let's not appreciate that feedback, but let's focus on the motion at hand. Go ahead, Vandenberg.
Great, thank you through the chair. So the advantage of having representation, of course, is something that we shouldn't take lightly, I'm sure. But one of the opportunities that I think is lost is the conversation portion of the information. So we have people who are in the know, but as a board, we don't talk about what the opportunities are. We kind of just, and if there's an opportunity to participate and help with direction for the representatives, I think that should be encouraged, and I don't know that it is very well. I would say whatever we decide going forward, keep that in mind, so that we're more plugged in to what's going on. Yes, we get the newsletters, that sort of thing, and a good example is the pre-budget consultation information that came out. Well, there is no consultation. It closes on August 25th. We don't have a mechanism or a process that's understood to participate or talk about it from potentially a board level, providing direction to our representatives who we could, utilize that. So just a suggestion, just sort of a step back and taking a look at what the role and benefit is to the board to support representation.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to state that in terms of feedback, we're out of time. I'm cognizant of 900 pages and everything we have to do, but the ability to engage with our 2 member directors that are currently there, committee director, is really, I don't want to encourage us to think that we have to do that as a board, because we individually have input based on our areas, and we can always provide that feedback. So we can take it away about the different things you might want to see in front of the board, and that's up to the board to say, I'd like to have this as a discussion item. That's not a problem to do anytime, but your vehicles are there. And whenever I've seen things, I've always been able to say, hey, can you talk about this? I just submitted a whole rural policy based on federal government that went through to the minister as well as to the 2 FCM directors. So it's kind of a self-directed thing, but if you want something in front of the board, there's nothing stopping you from requesting that. So there are mechanisms, happy to entertain them and look at them in a better format. So with that, I am going to call for the vote. I don't have anyone else on the list. All those in favor? Thank you. Anybody opposed? Good to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, with recommendations, Ryandale Commission, Director Jackman.
Yes, I'd like to move the board approve the updated RDCK rental rates for Greenville Recreation Facilities Specified Service S209.
Do we have a second? Thank you, DeBoon. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Nelson and District Rec Commission, is that still you, Director Page? Go ahead.
The board approved the RDCK extending the operating agreement with the City of Nelson for the operation of Nelson's Arena for a period of 2 years until May 31st, 2026, and the chair and corporate officer will be authorized to sign the necessary documents.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Graham. Did I say Cheryl? Discussion. Director Graham.
Thank you. Just a really quick point that this agreement is expired like 13 months ago or 14 months ago. And just a note to all staff to really watch these agreements. Like if something happened and a lawyer got a hold of an expired agreement, like we could have what's known as defense. So we really could be watching our agreement dates and calendar and, putting them on our calendars and getting them to the board much faster.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Tasker and District Rec Commission. Director Hanegraaff.
Yeah, I move the board approve the regional district of Central Kootenay enter into an event site license agreement with Pass Creek Expedition Society for Pass Creek Fall Fair for the 10 days, September 14th to 23rd, 2025, and that the chair and corporate officer be authorized to sign the necessary documents.
Second, please. Thank you, McFadden. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Joint Resource Recovery, Director Popoff, and I believe you're gonna block with the motions.
Yes, there's a lot of motions that I have to move, but I like to move the first 7 as a block. And I'll just read the preamble of the first one. They're basically all the same except the change of the service that's gonna be provided. So that the board authorized staff to direct and award a service agreement to the Creston Lions Club for refundable collection service at the Creston Car Wash and Creston Landfill Recycling Depots for the period of October 1st, 2025 to September 30th, 2028, with the possibility of 2 one-year expressions upon mutual agreement. And the other 6 are basically the same with the changes of who is going to be providing the service. So I'd like to move them as a block if I may.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Jackman. Does anyone need to pull one of the motions? Okay, discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Director Popoff, and your 8th motion.
Okay, now number 8 is that the board directs staff to reach out to current service providers for the collection of refundables at Winnacott, Boswell, and Crawford Bay Resource Recovery Facilities and explore their interest to continue to provide these services under the conditions laid out in the previous request. So I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second, Jackman?
Second.
Go ahead.
The question, through staff, I guess this one says, participants only waited. It's still a lot of people. I'm just wondering, do we need to define who those participants are? Like, obviously, Perry A and, McCusk, but, there's,
Everybody but Central, it appears,
well, yeah, there's all the other sites that were.
but Marblehead's in here, so it should be all. It should be all, because you have Central sites in here. RP.
Yeah, and through the chair, it does consider the award of service agreement, so that would be all vote weighted as well, so
Yeah.
actually should be.
Thank you.
And it covers everything else very nicely, thank you, and well, and.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Ange.
Through the chair, there's the acronym RFEI. I'm sorry, I don't know what that stands for, and I should put the full name.
Request for expressions of interest.
For the discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Number 9.
Sure.
Yes. Oh, sorry, Noel.
No, it was afterward. I thought you said Marblehead was included, but it's not included in number 8, so I don't know if it needs an amendment.
Well, the original motion was others.
Okay,
And
fair enough.
Marblehead was a part of the
Fair enough.
report. I just know it has Central sites that don't currently have operators for refundables. Thank you for checking. Pop up over to you, number 9.
Okay, number 9, that the board directs staff to implement the regulatory framework as presented for ICI, organic waste disposal at the Otishinia landfill, Creston landfill, Groman Narrows transfer station, and Central transfer station in Salmo, and return with the new definitions, fee structure for the next general update to the Regional District Resource Recovery Facilities Regulation Bylaw number 2961/2025.
Second, thank you, Jackman. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And number 10, that the board direct RDCK operated offices and facilities within the municipalities of Nelson, Castlegar, Salmo, and Creston that generate organic waste to begin preparing to participate in source separate organics recycling in 2026.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Jackman. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And number 11, that the board approved the RDCK enter into a services agreement with GFL Environment Services Incorporated for waste transfer from services from Slocan, Roseberry, and McCusk transfer stations, and not to exceed an annual value of $393,875 plus GST.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Weatherhead. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And number 12. That the board approve an amendment to the 2025 year and the 2025-2029 financial plan for general administrative services S100 to increase account transfer from reserve by 7,000 and increase account transfer to other reserves to other service by 7,000, and further, same thing basically, transfer to other services by 7,000, and further, that the board approve an amendment to 2025 year of the 2025-2029 financial plan for environmental services 102 to increase account transfer from other services by 7,000, account grants by 28,000, and increase account consulting fee by 35,000.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Sure.
Thank you. Discussion? We worked out all the accounts and ways are moving. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Director Papa. You are done for now. Ange?
So through the chair, the minutes that were on the agenda, they were scanned in the wrong order. So Emma has provided you an email with the correct order.
Thank you. 4.2, Director Cunningham, go ahead.
Okay, the board appoint the following individual to the RDCK following commission. The Area Chief Advisory Planning and Heritage Commission term to end December 31st, 2026. And further, the board sent a letter to outgoing member Dave Lang thanking them. Well, thanking him for his service for the Area Chief Advisory Planning and Heritage Commission.
Thank you. Second in discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Correspondence. So we tend to get these on advance of UBCM to alert you to a resolution. I think we discussed it at UBCM. Good on that one. Okay, bylaws 6.1. I did read this report thoroughly. Do we need, we're going to rescind a motion and then go to third reading. Any discussion? Go ahead, Jackman, or move.
No, I was just gonna move, I think they have to be individual, don't they? So I'll just move the first recommendation to rescind the previous forward bylaw 2971.
Do you have a second? Thank you, Jaboon. Discussion? Or I'm going to ask a question on this one. I know East Resource discussed it and I don't understand what's occurring. I'm just wondering, would we ever approach the ministry to ask if they provide funds for the electoral cent process, given they originally told us it would be covered in the resource recovery plan? Jackman?
We had conditional approval of that resource recovery plan, and I think this question of, is this liquid waste or solid waste was part of that conditional.
Okay.
I think Amy Wilson, Manager Wilson's probably driven down that path as far as possible. We're just gonna have to bite the bullet and find a way to hunt down Preston Silver.
Okay, not that I just know there was a lot of work in the resource recovery plan on that, so thank you to staff for persevering. Okay, great. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the next one.
Sure, I move that East Waste Management Subregion Refuse Disposal Recycling Service, Creston Landfill Phase 1 CD closure and burn loan authorization 2971-2024 be read a third time as amended.
Second. Thank you, Jaboon. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, the next few are for adoption. This is Area J. Do you have any questions in advance, or do you want to go ahead and move the motion?
Motion.
Go for it.
That the RDCK zoning amendment bylaw number 3031/2025 being a bylaw to amend the RDCK zoning bylaw number 1675/2004 is hereby adopted, and further that the chair and corporate officer be authorized to sign the same.
Is there a second? Thank you, Weatherhead. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I'll let her know.
You can do a little dance. It's all good. 3032, Area K. Director Weatherhead, did you have any questions or anyone have questions before we move a motion? Looking good. All right, go ahead.
The regional district to central Kootenay zoning amendment bylaw 3032/2025 being a bylaw to amend regional district to central Kootenay zoning bylaw number 1675/2004 is hereby adopted,
And further, the chair and corporate officer be authorized to sign this.
And a second, thank you, McLaren Co. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. 6.4, is this H or Slocan?
Yes.
With H, go ahead.
I'll move the recommendation that the Slocan Valley Fire Protection Local Service Area Establishment amendment bylaw number 3055/2025 be read first, second, and third time by consent.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Director Lund. Discussion? Looking good. Work well done. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, funding for Goat River Watershed Sustainability Planning, 7.1.1. Do we want a motion? Start with questions. I'm just gonna see, do we have Paris? I thought I saw Paris.
She was here. She's in the middle. Oh.
Let's just get Paris in the room because she would be the one answer. I saw your hand, Vandenberg. Was that Graham as well? Okay. And Jackman. I don't like to wait. We've got so much to do. Since I go ahead, but I feel like we'll just have to repeat once she comes in the room.
Do you want to jump right forward?
Well, I believe we also need, I don't know if Eric is here. Sorry, is Eric in the building? I'm not sure.
Moving so fast.
We were doing so good. I hate rushing you guys, but when you see that agenda, you.
We've got our speed talking down.
I know, I want time for discussion. I think one of the things we'll do today is if we start running out of room, we will table some of the core information items. So that's the plan. Thank you so much, Paris. So we've got a speakers list. We're gonna go ahead and start. Director Vandenberg, go ahead.
I think through the chair and to Paris, as soon as you're able to settle in. So it's just a clarity question. This appears to be a request for more funding around the governance communication portion of this. But I thought we already allocated some funding on this. So can you suggest where we're at with that previous funding and perhaps why we're asking for more? Am I understanding this correctly?
Thank you, through the chair.
Go ahead.
Yes, and on another item on the agriculture investment agriculture funding, there is an updated budget. It doesn't include the increase in costs, this one, but it does show how we're currently allocating costs based off the existing funding and the proposed IEF funding. The amount that we had allocated for engagement was about 2,500, and that included protocols, that included multiple gatherings, that included opportunities to cater. And we know that it's an amount that we can work with, 2,500, and we can do a lot more with this additional funding. And so what we're hoping to do is provide an opportunity, a one-day gathering, and potentially additional support as well, that just costs more money. So we can do a level of work and we can do more if we have more money. So yeah, it's just, it's at this stage, it's the interest of the board to how much engagement we want to do with the academic this time.
Thank you.
Sorry. Graham, sorry, I thought that was gonna go longer. Sorry.
Thank you through the chair, and this isn't my area, so I'm maybe not quite up to speed on this, but I just have a question here, just trying to understand like how directors' stipends play into this and why they would be there. And also, my second part of the question is like, is this something that Jackie McKee wants? Like, have they been asked for this? And it's not my area, so that's why I'm curious. It's a curiosity.
Go ahead, Paris.
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, we've been in conversation with staff, the academic staff, and everybody agrees that it's a great thing to go ahead and do. Mayor DeBoon and Director DeBoon and Superintendent Jason Louis, Chief Jason Louis, also spoke informally, and that's where this initial idea emerged from. It wouldn't be great if I can paraphrase to have spend some time together. And so there's numerous areas that we're in relationship with Yakimiki and different areas of working together. And the water sustainability project is one that is the most emergent and also sort of the biggest time scale and least, most emergent, but least urgent at this point. And so it provides, in some ways, the greatest opportunity to spend time and family and know each other in a productive way. And director stipends, it's to support director participation. So that directors can participate in it's amended as a council to directors.
Good, Grant?
I'm just curious, like, I'm just still trying to just wrap my head around how this stipends part works. Because we go to the community, like, partnership meetings, like, there's no stipend for that, so I don't understand it, that's okay, that's.
Not everything has stipend, and it's kind of at the initiation of approving something that it is or is not included. So that's why it's not across the table in terms of all things. The remuneration bylaw, which we will review a year in advance of the next election, is going to take a look at those discrepancies and how do we set policies on that. So it's a good catch, but that's where you get the differences. Okay. Jackman, McLaren-Co, and then DeBoon.
Sure, thanks. On stipends, I've had no expectation of stipends, and I don't really see it in the budget, but what Paris refers to the detailed budget under the item downstream, it's not in there. It's not a thing for me. It's part of doing what I do. Is this wanted by the Yakimiki? Yeah, we've had the 5K allocation approved twice with a big agreement discussion with Mr. Louis. Jason was all on board. Timing didn't work, so we set everything up and missed the mark twice. If you want to roll back, what, 5 or 10 years. My more germane question is timing on getting this grant, because this suggests a financial plan amendment with some detail. And I have no idea what fiscal year this is gonna fall into. Be quick, we're into the Q4. So should this not just, well, I guess, how long will it take to obtain approval for this funding and actually have it in hand? And should we perhaps just stop this recommendation at the first paragraph, worry about the budget adjustment later?
Good catch.
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, we had that discussion at staff as well, and we expect to hear back by end of October, early November. So it does potentially fall into Q4. We just wanted to save potential opportunity to do that amendment, but we do anticipate that we'll hear back this.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Go ahead.
But as I stated earlier, we may hear that we'll get the money, but picking the dates where it worked for full chief and council and work for the directors, I just have no expectation we're gonna sit down and meet and do all this work in December. Just seems premature to adjust the budget right now.
Did someone move the motion? Sorry, can I just check that?
No.
It was not moved. Would you like to move it with the elements you are good with, and then at least it's on the floor?
Well, I'd like to move it, sure, I guess the first two paragraphs.
Okay.
The board approves submission and staff directed to provide overall management, and just wait on the last part.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, DeBoon. Okay, good. I'm gonna keep going with the speakers list. Okay, thanks. McLaren-Co.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair to staff, I was just curious about more of an education piece on both the proposed solution and the alternative solution. Measuring success is to be determined for both. Could you maybe enlighten us as to what the metrics are for success?
Thank you, through the chair. I think it's what I would like to put in there is relationship building. It's a hard metric to qualify, and because we're still very much in that forming stage with Yakimiki. So to me, it was to be determined. I think it's the quality of relationship and if we're actually able to move towards something, it just felt a little bit, I wasn't sure how to actually quantify that in terms of interest. So that's where the to be determined. Yeah, I wasn't sure how to say that. But it would be quality and probably the fact that if there's a relationship in place, then we can work towards
DeBoon.
In my discussion with Mr. Louis, council meetings are about relationship building, but he had a desire to add something substantial into a council to council meeting. And this really fit the bill because this is something that affects them and affects us. So, my impression was he was very open in Van Council to doing this rather than just establish or reestablish friendships. We're looking at something that's substantial that they should have input in and it will impact them. So he was open to that suggestion, and I think that's sort of how that was born. Secondly, his idea was sort of an outdoor gathering with, I think, a presentation of traditional food and other things. And I'm not sure how that's going to work in time. That might be frozen food because it's winter time. But at any rate, you know, if we can time it so that the weather is conducive to an outdoor gathering, I think they would like that. But again, it may not work. So that's just my input.
Go ahead, Paris.
Thank you. And just to follow up on the timing, we can receive the funding in 2025. We don't have to plan the activity for a full year. So it could be a springtime activity when we know that yes, maybe there's a lot of land-based activities, or it could be a summertime activities.
Thank you. I had a question in regards to, this is, the C2C is a community to community grant, that essentially is about building relationships. It's a good question on the metrics, because everybody's how do you metric quantify a relationship. But what it does make me think of, and I'm aware of the watershed work, and I appreciate being in the Crescent Valley Services Committee to get more details, super supportive of it. But what I would like to request is that, given this is really when it's a community or council to council, it's government to government. So in that sense, I would like to ensure that whenever the event occurs, that it's not limited to the area directors, because it's really under their understanding that it is the RDCK that they're building a relationship with. So I'd encourage to reach out and see, and I think at minimum executive would be invited to attend, so that that relationship isn't to a sub-region, because it is the whole, is my understanding. So I think that that's a good place to go, especially with our other work that we do with them. So if that's amenable, I would recommend that we include that.
And this is, and I think there's a lot of points to work out in terms of who participates and what that looks like. One light concern that's been raised is having relatively equal numbers. And so that even though we're enthusiastic, the number of council members that can participate is often fewer than we can participate. So it might be that maybe there's numerous activities and people participate at different times. But that having us all come might overwhelm the situation.
Totally understandable. We can work that out at that point, but just I think we need to be cognizant of the whole table being, or just that we're an entity, and when it's RDCK, we're not one person or few. Further discussion. Paige.
I just want to say those 15 minutes in a future meeting. Maybe the mover is amenable to the removal of the word amendment to the 2025 year, just amendment to the 2025-2029 financial plan.
It's not in the motion. It was moved without that. Is that what you're referencing, Director Page?
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't include that.
I know we didn't include that. I'm seeing it in front of me.
Oh. Not that it's not friendly. We're friendly. As we discussed the C2C, are we friendly? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. 7.1.2, and this is, I believe Eric is not here, but Sangeeta is on the line. I just want to see if Sangeeta is present. She's right. Oh, I couldn't see you. Just wanted to make sure you had staff on hand. Thank you. This is Ian F, who would like to go ahead, Graham.
Thank you. So through the chair, so I did send some questions to staff about this particular contract, and I didn't get answered back one of them, which was just regards to the way the contract is written, and I do support this, was just regarded to dog patrols, listed in area E as being Kara, Proctor, and Blewett, and then side roads of area F. So I kind of was asking, like, does this mean that no other part of area E other than Hagen Beach ever get to side patrol? So I was just wondering how this works, and sorry, I probably should have followed up by email, but I didn't get my answers.
Through the chair.
Yes, go
The
ahead.
former director requested those patrols be done in those specific areas because there were a lot of complaints coming to her related to dogs out at large and aggressive dogs, so that's why. However, one of the dog control officers out, he's got the decal, the RDCK dog control decal, so when he's responding to things, he's kind of patrolling at the same time. Ultimately, we'd like to remove patrols from all contracts going forward, but at this time, this contract currently holds patrols. Because the and we haven't figured out yet if the issues that prompted the patrols in Para Proctor and Blue area have been resolved. So we need to first figure that out before we can recommend that. Patrols was removed.
So supplemental. Yes, go ahead.
Definitely still need fluid in there. Yeah, because we regularly get complaints about that. I also had an issue with the WCB coverage on this particular item, which I've emailed to Sangita because this contractor didn't have WCB. I checked. And it does make the RDCK liable if there is no coverage. Some sole proprietors are not all required to have them, but that would mean that there perhaps should be in the contract, the provision that the WCB is to be covered by the regional district, as opposed to waiting till something happens and then dealing with the aftermath with that. So those are my only comments, but I would like to move the motion.
You move the motion. Do you second, Director Newell? Thank you.
Yes.
So I have Lockwood and then Munn.
So I just through the chair to staff, just need some verification on. So the costs are being paid out of services S183, F202 and S203. How is it different? How is it decided what costs come out of this to pay for this? Like, because I could see that there's lots of parks and all of in EF and EFG Nelson Powell is not getting the same thing. So how is that decided?
That was through this chair. That was decided by the directors. So Director Popoff wanted patrols in Pleasant Valley Beach Park. And we need patrols, Director Graham in Tagum Beach Park. These are heavily used beach parks in the summertime, and dogs are off leash sometimes and disturbing the folks that are there. And so it's a way to mitigate for that. Other parks may need patrols, but at this time that's not what we've heard from parks. They've only asked for patrols in these two areas based on commission feedback. The children speaks to that.
Supplementary, I don't think that you're understanding it. I'm saying, I understand
your question.
Sorry.
So through the chair, if you're looking for the dollar amount associated with that, it's section of the Schedule C, Part B, $2,000 a month from June 15th to September 15th for each park. So from June 15th to September 15th, it's $2,000 per calendar month for Tagum and $2,000 per calendar month for Crescent Valley Beach.
And Director Lockwood, your question is when was this or how was this decided that it went through the parks?
No.
Okay.
It's just that you have three areas that are needing, three individual areas that are needing dog services. I'm wondering how does the Nelson Salmo E, F, and G Park Service integrates into that you're taking some out of that, but you're also taking out of Control Services E and F, Nelson, or New Denver, Silverton, Slocan. Like, I'm not understanding, we're picking out of 29 parks, whatever that we have. We're picking out a few parks. But we're putting a cost to 5 areas. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so through the chair, when the dog control invoice comes in.
Yeah.
That gets approved based on this contract here, so if it's in June, there'd be an allocation to the parks because during the summer, those patrols happen. But if we got a bill for November, all of that's going to the dog control for the general core provision.
Okay. And in terms of the parks, it was based on the need for patrol. And that was requested specifically by the director, so it wasn't kind of like.
Joe,
But sorry,
Joe,
oh, hi, Joe.
Sorry, no, through the chair. It has been, those discussions happened, with commission. And they happen, you know, just as things do, more than a number of years ago. And it was decided that Tagum, we had a high conflict area there, so that patrols were necessary. And I think it goes a little bit to what, Sangeeta was, talking about even in the other portion of Area E. As of right now, it's still a concern. I know it is a concern for our park staff for Tagum Beach. And we've had the same and similar concerns at Crescent Valley Beach. So in essence, that's why those two parks are in this contract.
I'm not gonna, I'll have a conversation later because there's something else that's, okay.
Director Lund.
My question might be in a similar vein to yours, and I understand, and I guess the question is, of course, Crescent Valley Beach, a regional park is part of this, it's a regional park within the service. We haven't had any recent conversation, we've had limited services committee, so my question through the chair to staff, I suppose, is this isn't a net new cost. I understand it's in the budget, but I just don't recall having conversation at the Silicon Valley service in a long while.
So, services committees only existed.
Yes.
For 2 years, maybe about 2. But the dog patrols or this type of work being done at Crescent Valley Beach has been ongoing almost from the day that we opened that park. Director Popoff may have a better memory of it than I do, but it's been at least, oh my gosh, time just builds itself together. It's been more than 5 years.
Yeah, thank you. So nothing that and I vaguely recall some conversations at budget this morning to confirm. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So if I may respond, Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, good question. I believe maybe you were not a mayor at that time when we did that. We had a discussion on patrols on that, and it was approved by the director in the service, not only by Area H director. So this has been ongoing for, I can go back and record and tell you about how many years, but we can do that offline.
Yeah. I totally get it. Thanks.
Okay. Seeing no more speakers, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? Thank you, that passes. We are gonna take our morning break. Huh?
Well, sorry, he was going to say, is this maybe like a snack?
No, the snacks are gonna be later. Okay. Oh, we're gonna be. All right. Director Fike, I'm just gonna check in. Oh, there you are. Hello. Good to go. All right. And Director Davidoff will be back after 1 o'clock. Okay. We are at 7.1.3. You have a motion, you have a report. Where would we like to start, directors? Director May.
I would, move the motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second, Director Graham. And was that for discussion as well? Okay,
Absolutely.
so Maine to discuss and then Graham, and then Jackman. Go ahead, Maine.
Yes, I have some familiarity with this program, having attended the online webinar, and I'm really excited that Paris has a proposal ready to go. It is, we'll file this one under free money. The portion of funding through FCM's Green Municipal Fund that has very few strings attached. The funding envelope is quite large, so I would be happy to turn it over to Paris to explain the proposal that she has put together.
Can I just request that if it's already in the report, we've all read it, but any summary you'd like to provide, go ahead.
Thank you, good chair. There's 3 points that I'd like to highlight. One is that this is work to really bring together all the work that we've done in different areas of focus and create a regional adaptation plan. The proposal that we focused on is on drought, considering a regional drought adaptation plan, because in emergency management, there's other areas of general work that's happening around all the other. And then the last point is that, and the drought regional drought management plan fits in really well with our watershed governance initiative work and the work that we've been talking about for many years about how do we consider drought at a regional level. And then the last point is that if we do this work at a regional level, then all the municipalities become eligible for the stage 2 and stage 3 funding. Stage 2 is $75,000 for feasibility study, and stage 3 is up to $1 million in implementation funding to do adaptation work in your communities.
Thank you.
And drought is the starting point of wildfire. So we can see that all hazards come together, but really drought is one of the ones that often overlooked that's so critical to our future.
Thank you. Director Brown.
Thank you, and thank you for that explanation. I'm just trying to understand. So what I'm trying to understand here is, like, we're applying for the $140,000. So how much time and costs are involved to prepare the submission that has no guarantee of approval?
Thank you. Through the chair, the application. Yes, I think what we've anticipated is about 6 hours of staff time. There's a readiness form that we need to prepare to understand where we are at in terms of readiness around adaptation work. And so it's a matrix of assessment that takes about 3 to 4 hours. And then the application is very straightforward and we take about 1 hour.
About 10 hours? No, 6 hours. 6 hours total. Okay, thank you. So if we are successful, your supplemental, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
If we are successful with this, I'm just curious about how much extra staff costs, and the bigger question here is capacity for staff, because we're always hearing that there's a lot of work and we've got 130 things on our work plan, and do we really realistically, does the staff have time for this on top of everything?
And
go ahead, Paris.
Through the chair. Yeah, the way that we've designed it is that it does integrate with existing work plans and really supports where we are prioritizing our staff time at the moment. And so particularly with the focus on drought, it works with the WGI focus, that's really my time. And then with the focus on emergency management or hazard mitigation, it works with the EM team and the community resilience coordinator and Kootenay. So these at that level, it supports existing work. So this is wanted to do and now have funding to do. And it builds a level of efficiency.
Dan would like to add to it. Go ahead, Dan.
From through the chair, building on what Paris said, one of the extra pieces that's coming from an emergency management standpoint is or the regulations that are coming out of the Emergency and Disaster Management Act. One of the things we're going to need to be doing are the risk assessments across the regional district. One of the pieces that's going to be part of that is a hazard risk and vulnerability assessment, as we wrote in the report. And part of that is the direct component. So we know that we're gonna have to be doing the work. We don't, the funding question is one that is very obvious when it comes to admin and risk assessments. So we're preemptively getting ahead of that, knowing that we're gonna be.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got you on for the last, I'll put you down for a second. Thank you. Director Jackman.
Yeah, thank you. So through the chair, a little bit on the same line. They haven't scrolled down to the exact part, but I believe the report indicated that, you know, there's up to 0.25 FTE, the resilience coordinator time, up to 0.5 FTE, the sustainability and resilience supervisor time available to support. Which to me could either mean over the 18 to 24 months, we consume 0.75 FTE times 2 years, or is it a fraction of each of those? Theoretically available allocations of time to work on, because I know as we've been shifting the C/SLAC priorities of your work plan, I don't think until we see the budget presentations in a month. Not gonna happen. You're looking at CLO's not here. Until we see the budget presentation, I don't understand what flexibility is in your budget. So I'm just wondering when you listed 1.25 FTE, sort of how much that is. Then I have one other maybe easier question after that.
Go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. Given the way that we work within our department, it would be a fraction of, because we're managing multiple projects. But to the point of efficiency, we want, so it's both and an extra piece of time, so it's an extra project. And because we're doing the work in WGI, it would be a portion of it as well. So there would be dedicated time, unclear over the 2 years of how much specific time, but I allowed for 0.25 additional time of my time. To be allowed for this project. And then for the engagement coordinator, it would be far less. But it would be a portion of her time as well. But again, intermittent as we're doing engagement in community and doing different outreach activities.
And we'll see that, I guess, when we see the budget work plan and the like. So then the other question was, because I like to be able to read stuff sooner rather than later, because 1,000 pages at a time of dumping of data is difficult. You make reference to, you know, a watershed protection service, and there's reference to whether it's Nanaimo or Parksville. I'd rather see sooner rather than later a little more as to what that service looks like. I think there's a reference to parcel taxes, stuff like that, not to be maybe added on to multi-page board thing like you showed it me the next week, early, way before we have to look at this again. And then I want to understand what a watershed protection service would do as compared to what I thought we were talking about for a little while ago, establishing a water board at Okanagan. Because when I looked at the Okanagan Water Board, and we corresponded on the side, I can see information from them about drought and allocation of water and what they're doing with their ag sector. And that's where I pulled all kinds of interesting information up about, impact of failure to adequately irrigate crop in fall and the impact on the next year. So I'd like to see the comparison. Is this service to support a water board? And the sooner we can see that, I think the better.
Go ahead, through the chair. Yes, and so, and I did reference this in the report. Normally this would have come through CSLAC because of our change of schedule of CSLAC and the timing of the application of funding, which is September 16th. I brought it to the board, so thank you very much for considering it here. I can bring that outline to CSLAC in October, and so that we can have a more fulsome conversation at CSLAC, where that conversation has been held to date about considering a drinking water watershed protection service, and will include an analysis that will come on board for this administration.
Thanks.
McFadden.
Thank you. Most of my questions have been answered, so I do appreciate because no matter what, grants always cost us money, whether or not we want to say they do with staff time. I appreciate that this is integrated into work that sounds like you're gonna already have to do or already doing. So I appreciate when we're looking for grants that fit into things that we need to do, not extra projects, so thank you for that. My question was around your comment on the second and third tiers funding. So are you saying so that if the RDCK as a whole does this work, that individual municipalities, not the RDCK, that actually covers us to be able to then apply for those second tier and third tier funding, including municipalities that might not be a part of CSLAC? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Go ahead.
Thank you through the chair. Yes, yeah, it's, as Director Mead was saying, it's quite a remarkable, stream of funding in that way. There is also the possibility that municipalities can apply on their own as well, but they're not required to benefit from a regional plan. So because we would be doing it as a regional level and would be considering not the internal mechanisms of municipalities, but how we're functioning as a regional district, then FCM has said that yes, you would be able to reference, all municipalities would be able to reference the regional plan as their plan, which is the first step in the criteria, and then access the other two sources. Thank you.
Thank you. Hewitt, go ahead.
Thank you through the chair. I also participated in the meeting and it sounded really good, but I had some concerns about municipalities actually getting what they needed to move to the next step. This one is focused on drought. If a municipality needed to do something that wasn't based upon the original study area, i.e. drought, would we be able to build on that, the work that the RDCK is doing in another area, right? Just reference it, but it's not specifically to do with drought because issues within a municipality may not mirror the study areas that you're focusing on at this point. Just to ensure that it does have value for all municipalities of potential value.
Thank you through the chair. Yes, that is a great point. And so we'll confirm what FCM has asked us to do. And part of the reason that the resolution is relatively open is that we have to do a first level of assessment to determine that in fact drought is a area of focus at the hazard. And because we're doing this general level of work broadly through EM, we feel like we can focus on all the hazards except for drought and then provide this funding specifically for drought. But it's a great question. And so our intent is that we are doing broad-based adaptation planning, and that's really what they want to see is that you have this in place and that they're providing the support to do that. So I will confirm and make sure that we're not negating or we're not creating ineligibility when we're doing this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Paige.
I think I heard that it's gonna be okay, but I was thinking about seasonal variability in the amount of water, not just drought, but steep creek flooding and all the things that go along with that. So that's gonna be captured and will be supported on good.
Thank you.
That's great.
So I have several questions. No one else on the list, trying to put myself last. The first one, I just want to note that East Kootenay Chair Rob Gay reached out to me about 2 months ago and asked, was our board considering this? And I just punted it to staff, so looks like you are. So definitely collaboration across 3 regional districts is how this will also intersect our geographical boundaries, or sorry, our jurisdictional boundaries don't stop water at that point, so thank you. I do want to ask about so when it comes to the work plan and what we have in front of it, when I first read this, I thought about the hundreds to thousands of water systems that are independently governed, not by the RDCK, not saying they should be or shouldn't be, but they seriously lack capacity, governance, and actual access to water. So my first impression was, well, I understand this is important. I'm still looking at the capacity and the ability for residents to even have drinking water. That led me to kind of contemplate the notion that with the WGI, Watershed Governance Initiative, this other work, it's very much advocacy and relationship building, but we don't have the jurisdiction unless we own the water system. So I have a couple of questions. I'm going to try and keep them together as I ask other directors to do. My first question is really, how is water services intersected with this and the request of the water services community to see how do rural water systems get support through us? Because I can tell you Meadow Creek and all of their water table, there's drought. We know where drought is. I'm concerned about their actual ability to access it. When they're independently owned, they don't have the capacity to run it, let alone do the advocacy and the work necessary. So it's kind of my first question. I'm going to bunch them together for you. The next one is when I look at the work plan and I read the 2 other 4 information reports on the emergency season last year, there was a good chunk of recommendations in there that are directly attributed to how to build resilience in our communities. And my first thought was, that's what we need to do. We've got the tactical, the metrics and everything that will make a specific difference. I get very cautious over plans when I know there's tangible solutions. So please help me understand how we're going to address the recommendations in those reports. I asked you for the grant outline because I wanted to see would those recommendations match what you could apply for, and they do. I'm not going to discount the work staff has done, but I'd like to know how that's intersecting. How are we going to act on those recommendations out of last year? Because they are so critical to community resilience. So I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the chair. I'll respond to the first question, and if I can invite Dan to speak.
Absolutely.
So great question around water systems, how we interface with rural water systems. So our systems, and then also 450 other watersheds that have so many informal and formal water systems attached to them. And that is really the work of the WGI to understand how we support residents as their water systems become increasingly vulnerable. So to speak specifically to water services, so I did reach out to understand how much work has been done in planning for preparing our water systems, RDCK water systems for climate change, and very little. There's been some work that's been relatively ad hoc. There's an understanding of vulnerability, but there hasn't necessarily been no planning. They're very much in operations. And so they were keen to see that this work would start to happen and that we could support them in thinking about that. So that's an area of work of just looking at RDCK water systems. And then as part of the drinking water watershed program, at least the model from all regional programs that we are referencing, Okanagan Water Board, also the Cowichan Regional District, also Regional District of Nanaimo, provide a strong education component. How do you support yourself? How do you support your own water system in the face of a changing climate? And so that the hope would be that we would also be able to provide some of that support to residents as well, so that they can understand what they need to be doing to be monitoring their system, to be creating catchment systems, to be understanding when there's things that they're facing. I think our specific role is an ongoing question as the RDCK. What is our role in when we don't have jurisdiction? And we keep finding that out and figuring out as we proceed how comfortable we are to either take on an advocacy role, an education role, or if as project by project that we've been doing, directly getting involved and testing out different methodologies for changing the system.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, through the chair. So I'll just draw attention to the two reports because there's two different ones. There's an after action review report and there is a community recovery closure report. I forget what we called it, but it's essentially on community recovery. So speaking to the after action report or the review, the actions that have come out of that, there's nothing that's going to need funding at this point for specifically for the after action. So if I think of the resilience building from that standpoint, it's around organizational resilience or team resilience or interagency resilience. And so I'd say, I have to look at the number, but it's around 70% of the after action review recommendations we've already started, and because a lot of it is around relationship building and process refinements within internal. So if I look at the community recovery report that was for information, one of the big, and I know we have a line in there that says that we were denied money from the province when we had stepped forward asking for funds because it hadn't been declared a disaster. The big ticket item that was in there was around a communications plan, and it was about $40,000 that we were requesting to do timely and geographically specific communications. I think we had I forget how many pages the communication plan was, but we wanted to be able to hire somebody to support the communications. We didn't get the funding, so we did it internally. So that was a very temporal kind of thing. But what we learned from not having that communications grant approved or funding request is that we need to better understand what emergency operations center communications looks like across mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery, as well as any emergency preparedness like pre-season. So we've got a project that's allocated funding to looking at just that. So we've closed the gap on that one. And then there are probably, trying to remember the number, it was like 26 other smaller activities that we could have done from a recovery standpoint. I don't know that this is the right place for the funding. At the same time, always open to the conversation of it. what worked well when we had recovery happening is that we were able to get funding to have a community recovery manager who was running that program. And we were able to allocate only about 40% of staff, one emergency program coordinator staff time, who is, now that this is closed, they've moved on to something else, and the community recovery manager funding has ended. So we no longer have a community recovery manager. So if we do want to look at specific projects that we might have ideas for out of the community recovery program or report, I'd also have to think about how we shift staff time, because the work plan is now shifted back to the other priorities.
Okay, thank you.
Just so that's, there's no more to that as well.
I pop off next. I do want to follow up on one, which is actually for Paris. So thank you, Dan. That answers my question on that one. When it comes to, I'm not going to not support the drought plan. I really appreciate understanding how it supports the municipalities. That's a critical piece. What we know is needed for small water systems is really well known. We have a 15-year history on advocating for what needs to happen. We have our own water system proposal we put forward to ministries, to IHA. So we do not need to go back and figure that out. What I would like to request that doesn't need to interfere with this motion is that staff works with water services to bring to the water services committee, how are we going to support those small water systems, looking at the water system proposal and ensure that we're concurrently addressing the thousands of water systems in the RDCK that have so little capacity to operate. And that's not, again, necessarily that we all own and operate them, but that we find ways to support them. Because getting the water is as much as ensuring the water is available. So I would like to see that done concurrently so that we're doing tangible impacts as well. So it's just some feedback. Papa.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Water systems that are not owned by or administered by regional district. We've been advocating for that for more than 15 years. And the question that I have is, when I read that Green Municipal Fund, is NGOs can apply with regional district support. Now, the question that I have is, we have organized water systems that are fairly large and medium. And what I'm looking at is, we're looking at irrigation water districts that were once their own governance structure and improvement districts. Now, if we apply for this fund, would it hamper those NGOs for applying to the Green Municipal Fund with RDCK support, so they can bring their infrastructure separately, but maybe to a point where they can become a regional district service? At this point, they're not there. They need $2-3 million investments or whatever. So I guess the question is, through the chair to staff, will this application preclude NGOs for applying, like improvement district and irrigation districts?
Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, through the chair. No, and thank you for making that connection. And I will follow up with all the improvement districts as well, just to encourage them to apply. No, it's the funding's vital.
Thank you.
Just a clarification, improvement districts are a small portion. There's a ton of small water system societies.
Yes.
And I can send you some notes offline for some of those. So I had no one else on the list. I did have Director Main who wanted a second, so go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll give a little bit more of the overview of what this program can provide. We are in year 2 of an 8-year project. So this is not the only moment that we have to act on. Keep in mind the rural areas, the municipalities building on this work, should this be funded and we go through this, municipalities will have more opportunities, as there are cyclical intakes for the 3 phases of the program. There's also full support within the program for contracting out any portion or all portion of the work. And if you look at the proposed budget on page 4 of Paris's report, there's professional fees of $71,000. So, a portion of it is going to be contracted out, so that minimizes the impact on existing staff work plans and doesn't overstretch them. And collaboration, yes, there were in the webinar, the proponents were very, very emphatic that they're looking at the 3 east, west, and Kootenay boundary regional districts as an opportunity for broader region collaboration. And I know that Paris has been in touch with her, equivalent colleagues surrounding us. And so it's a really great opportunity to take that bigger view. I leave the details of the program to staff, but I find this really exciting. Contracting out year 2 of an 8-year project, 3 stages of funding, and in order to qualify for the 2nd and 3rd stages, you have to be able to demonstrate that you have a plan that this fits into. And that's where it starts. Municipalities can also have their own plan while they still retain connection to the regional district plan. So, as you can tell, I'm really excited about this. I think Paris has come up with a great initial project on a topic that's really important to all of us. So I urge you to vote in favor of this.
Thank you. No other speakers? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 7.1.4 temporary use permit for Area G, Director Cunningham.
Yes, I'd like to move it with second, please.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, yeah. And I'll read it out. The board report, where it says upper area G, that's Greg Upper is the name of the man. There is no upper area G and lower area G, just in case you thought so. And the recommendation is that the board approve business temporary use permit T2501G to perform wood products for the property located at 8564 Highway 6, rural Sound, BC. All right, and legally described as listed.
Thank you. It's on the floor. Further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 7.1.5, this is also for the GOAT watershed, but this is the Investment Agriculture Foundation application. I believe this one is to more so look at the economics of water systems and to bring in some experts, so not so much the relationship building, but more so the studies that were requested and information. I'm just going by what I recall at CVSC. Do directors have questions to start, or would you like a motion? Open to the floor. Jackman.
Yeah, through the chair, I have a general question about timing, and again, it comes back to and further about trying to slot it in the 2025 budget, because there's elements like lots of 50 to 75 farm visits, which probably won't take place before December 31st. But more important than that, and again, it's been back and forth on some of this, I'm hoping that if it's Kootenay farm group that goes out to people, that they'll go out with sort of 2 things under their belt. One is like the, hey, how's it going? And ask, what are you seeing as your challenges? But also have the did you know side of it that we've been talking about. And I was hoping that we would be seeing something from other jurisdictions and or Quantum Polytechnic that would be part of what the Kootenay Farm Advisors would go out with in hand. And I don't know if they're gonna have that this fall to start making farm visits. So I'm good with the overall recommendation, except to me, it looks as though this is all gonna happen next February, March. I don't know of any of this field work that's really gonna happen this year at all. So the questions are on timing and whether we just defer the portion about the financial planning.
Go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, the activity primarily, there's one activity that will happen in the late winter. We're holding some gatherings. And then there's a planned lunch and learn at Children's Club on January 8th. And I'll share that information with the BFA. And then we'll in the spring we'll be doing some winter spring we'll be doing the farm visits. And just to add to your points, Director Jackman, that in addition to listening and hearing back, we're also looking to align this with work in the water system. So sharing the information about the alternative agricultural supply study and also providing some hands-on support for the new metering program. So, and potentially looking to legal detection. So we're trying to build them a lot. And yes, we have been in touch with the Wetland Polytechnic meeting with them next week to get some specific information. We also have an amazing expert in the form of Isaac Decker, who is a PhD hydrologist, and so he's also providing a lot of the science behind how we understand water. myself and Camille, who are the people who are mostly involved, we're looking, learning and recognizing our limitations for bringing the experts. But yes, that we're gathering all the information. We will have a good source of information to hand out, because we see this, what we're increasingly understanding is that farmers have, and this of course is a generalization, but that there's a great understanding of often what's happening within the farm, and we're trying to provide a good understanding of what's happening within the watershed as well.
Go ahead.
So given that, I would move the first paragraph,
Yeah.
for direct staff to apply and authorize to sign necessary agreements subject to a successful application. Just leave the national plan amendment for the budget process.
Thank you. So, and to clarify that, first let me ask for a second. Thank you. Okay, it's on the floor. We wouldn't need a financial plan amendment in the next budget cycle because it would just be a part of it if this is.
Yes, no, I know.
Yeah,
Exactly.
okay. And I did ask about just putting it, removing the year, and essentially that it's kind of redundant at that point because it will be in the budget post this fiscal year if it's approved. Yeah, Paige, go ahead.
I'm sure it's captured, but just checking in. So we talk a lot about meters, we talk a lot about water for our watershed. I'm thinking in the planning component about on-site management, retention, and runoff, in terms of what happens for agriculture practices are in play and how to include all of that. So is that being captured within the beginnings of this?
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, KDFA, Indian Boundary Farm Advisors has a quite extensive program on irrigation practices and water practices on farm, and has done a lot of work over the years of providing support to farmers to how to increase water within their soil, how to capture water that's coming from the sky, and also how to use low emission systems for low irrigation.
Yeah.
Are you also thinking of built form, like coming up?
Well, I was thinking of reverbs and I was also thinking of runoff and fertilizer coming off the fields.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure. I imagine that's part of the conversation, but I'll look into it. Yeah, in terms of water pollution. Yes, thanks for looking into it.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we have 3 items for information. I think we can go ahead with these. I was going to suggest tabling if we felt like we were not too far into the meeting and had a lot to cover, but staff are here, so let's take the opportunity. I have comments, but I'll open up to the floor. Really well done reports. Well, then I'll start. Oh, sorry, 7.1.6, state of climate action and the greenhouse gas inventory is the first one, so 7.1.6. We have really good reports, so I'm not gonna ask staff for summaries. I'm gonna ask the directors if they have questions. If there's anything not in the report you want to address, you're welcome to. I did ask about the source on the stats, and I really appreciated the response, the direct link. That was good to understand. It's way more tangible than I thought it was. So thank you for that. Directors, do you have questions for Paris on this report? Graham.
This is not so much a question on the report, but this is just that we're having this report at the same time that we're having the quarterly review. And for me, I found this particular way that the information was coming was a lot for this meeting. So my comment would be, is this the best way to be doing this? Or should we maybe not have the quarterly report coming at the same meeting as the state of climate action? So that would just be, because I just found it almost overwhelming to try to digest.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that feedback. I didn't necessarily think the quarterly report was the big concern for me in terms of reports, but I do want to own that when we review the agenda, we look at the cover. I don't get to read the materials, and by the time I finished reading the materials Monday afternoon, I definitely recognized there was too much on this agenda. And so at executive level, I do struggle with knowing that, and it's not just staff's fault in any way, the volume of material. But it's something that we need to pay a little more attention to. And what I did ask in advance was what can be referred or what could be tabled, which was what I was gonna do with the 4 information items, should we not have gotten to our business. So it's definitely a struggle and I recognize it. I'm not entirely clear on how the quarterly report is the one that you might not want to have at the same time. I was just seeing the volume of material. But feel free to elaborate on the quarterly report part.
Okay, for the quarterly report, like what I do is I get the last one out and compare it to this one.
Oh, okay.
Because we can't find what's going on any other way, except for the very short summary at the back. So for me personally, and that's why I'm bringing this forward, that I found that those 2 agenda items, like this agenda item, I did not get fully through.
Okay.
It was the only one that I didn't get fully through. So that was my struggle, and I guess that's why I wanted to bring it forward.
Thank you. And I did ask about an item later on the agenda, but it was in reference to the SOCA report and the GHG. So perhaps just staff maybe think about other ways to receive this. It is a lot of information. Thank you, Director Graham. Further discussion? All right. Next item is 7.1.7, which is the Wildfires Community Recovery Closeout. Hi, Ian. Welcome to the meeting. Good to see you. Everyone knows Ian Briscoe. We don't always see you, so good to see you. Directors, do we have any questions for this? You know, having been a part of emergencies for the last decade, it was not good that we had to do this, but I really appreciated the report on how did it go, what occurred. So thank you for that. Anything outside the report you need to add?
Well, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Directors, are we good? I had so many comments on this one. Go ahead, Director Lockwood.
Can I just ask through the chair, out of your guys's, what is the biggest takeaway that we as a board would be the most valuable thing for us to know?
For recovery.
For recovery.
Sure. Yeah, yes.
I think one of the things that I learned is, and I shared with the board, because I think recovery is one of these things that's often been an afterthought. We've been hyper focused on response, which is like, how do we put the right stuff on the right stuff? And recovery is one of those things that's gonna last multiple years. It's something that isn't funded from an annexation standpoint, and it's something that's really hard to get funding for when an event actually happens, unless you hit certain markers from the province. That was very eye-opening to us. It also, the other part from a staffing standpoint, my team and I, we were gassed when recovery, when we were starting to give our attention towards recovery. So how we sustain ourselves as staff in the EOC in order to be able to also sustain ourselves through the recovery process that's gonna last multiple months was a question that came up for us last year. So that's another piece for the board. And the other part was, and you can probably speak better to this, but that part around relationship building with community and community organizations is critical before an event happens. And we've done a lot more of that this year with, specifically with economic development groups in the Slocan Valley, and we already had different relationships with Argenta folks, so it's already in place. That is absolutely critical, but government isn't going to be able to do everything, and we shouldn't be doing everything. It really has to be community-based effort. So having those relationships ahead of time is critical. And it's stuff that, you know, I went to school on this stuff, you read about it, you're like, of course that makes sense. But when it actually happens and you're tired, you've been working 18-hour days, you're coming out of an emergency, you're trying to get to this next thing, how it plays out in person versus in the textbooks is different. So for us, it's putting effort into recovery planning, which really means relationship building before we even have an event, and to make sure that we have time for that on our work plan. If you have more of that.
Yeah, so through the chair, my experience is really echoes what Dan just said. It was a lot of building and establishing relationships. And I felt like we probably could have gained a lot more traction on our early recovery efforts had those relationships already been established. Furthermore, we need to recognize that those relationships can't just be reliant on somebody that's a super connector, that's happy to get out in the community and reach out to those people. So we need to be able to find a way to institutionalize those relationships so that they're sustainable and then persist beyond specific individuals that inhabit the roles that build those relationships. I will be doing a presentation on this at the Building Resilient Communities Conference in November, specifically on the building and developing of those relationships and making sure that they persist beyond specific individuals and that they are between organizations and institutions. I think that that will help tremendously for long-term viability for recovery efforts.
Thank you.
I didn't think I was gonna get that big of an answer, but thank you very much.
Thought about this one. It was a big deal.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna ask a question that builds on that one, because it's directly related, and then I've got Popoff and McFadden. Hope you guys are okay with that, but I really would like to know the main vehicle that we have in a formal structure is the NEP program, the Neighborhood Emergency Preparedness Program. We know in the Lardo Valley, they have 6 communities, they've been working on it. We have I don't wanna say a new job, we have a new role for someone to take that on. I would like to know, how can we put more resources into all the communities that want to develop NEP programs where you will then have developed that relationship with structure around it?
Thank you, through the chair. Great question, because I haven't had a chance to talk about this yet. So there are 2 projects that we're working on. One is a regional hazard, risk, and vulnerability assessment. It hasn't come to board yet because we're at the expression of interest phase, so we haven't even been invited to apply yet. That's going to be for DRIP funding. And my intention is to use a participatory process through, which means we would be going into community and asking for their input on what their hazards are, what their resources are, what their risks, and using those meetings as a catalyst for building NEPs across the region. So NEPs get built through the process of developing the HRVA. We've also gotten in parallel essentially money given to us from Columbia Basin Trust and a community partnerships program. Anyways, it's about emergency management and about building resilience into our communities. And we're partnering with the regional district, RDCK and RDKB, to develop next level now, essentially. And so there's $100,000 that could get allocated to that. That's I'm meeting with Christina and Mark next week to talk about how we bring that to our individual boards. So it's very much on our minds, and like in the next year, 2 years, I could see something really expanding in terms of those networks. And I agree. I think NEPs are a critical part of that resilient building piece, both from like across all parts of emergency management, preparedness, response, and recovery.
Thank you, Christina. Mark being the EK and the KB counterparts for you. Okay. Just in that support piece, the capacity funding, I do hope some of that's going to go to the communities for their time and efforts in terms of their coordinators or whatnot. So you don't have to respond to that, but yeah, we know what that takes. Okay, thank you, Popoff and McFadden. I went ahead of you. Go ahead, Popoff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and to the chair. I think you've covered most of everything that I'm looking forward to. The complex of fires in the Spokane Valley was great, and unfortunately, we were not prepared for that. Now, as a result of that, there are organizations that are being established right throughout the whole Spokane Valley, and what you mentioned, keeping in contact with those. And moving forward, you've covered most of everything that I'd like to see you cover. And you're doing a great job. Our economic recovery, we had that meeting in Appledale Hall. That was good, etc. But I sure wish we would have had this in place before. And I know you're working on it, and I give you credit for what you've done. Keep up the good job. Thank you.
Thank you, McFadden.
Thank you, through the chair of staff. So you mentioned that the big concern was that we don't have funding in order to do recovery if we don't get, if it doesn't fall into or getting funding from our local government. So I guess the question is, do we have a plan? Is there something coming for budget time that's actually looking at that? How do we have a reserve? How do we, for this type of events that we are preemptively putting money away so we're not finding that problem again? Have we put some energy towards that? Is there something coming?
Through the chair. The short answer is no, not from that particular perspective. I think the avenue, what we learned in going through this recovery is the other avenue that we could have gone through is coming to board. Well, in policy, I believe there's a later report coming in camera on declaring states of local emergency that will be connected to that, and there could be a part of the powers that can be invoked through EDMA is a allocation of budget to recovery. So it might be a just in time in the moment thing as opposed to building reserve, but I'm not the financial kind of guru in this stuff, so I imagine the board could choose to go in a different direction than a just in time.
Len, thank you. I do want to ask at that point, though, recognizing in this report or any other one that we were declined some of this funding from EMCR due to it not being declared a disaster. At that point, that is something I flagged. I only read it in the report that's something I would take to the policy group first to say we need to advocate. But well in advance through the EDMA work I'm involved in, I've been advocating like, you want us to do all this, you better be paying for all of it. So that's my first point of, as a politician, that I would be advocating around that, like, there's so many new responsibilities and we're HRBA, risk assessments, but recovery was put in there a while ago and they should be funding it. So that mechanism for me, not your fault, but from an advocacy piece, we need to do some work on that. Go ahead, you want to just respond?
Yeah, good share. Further, what we also learned is to try to get as many financial requests in during the response phase, because while you're in response, the taps are flowing.
Right.
As soon as that ends, it becomes a different pocket of funding from the province's standpoint. I also think the province is catching up to new disaster financial assistance arrangements that came out on April 1st or April 31st, or 30th, something like that. Of this year, so they may not have adjusted their financial guidelines to it yet. And I know that there are new financial guidelines that are supposed to be coming up from the province. I don't know when.
I think that's one for us to really watch from a political perspective. Thank you. Director Lund.
I think you spoke to my point, but I want to say a huge thank you to staff for the work and having an organized and people there for the response and recovery. Huge for small, tiny communities that are dispersed and in crisis mode and in recovery. So from a small municipal standpoint, just really appreciate the partnership and the work that's done with us. And then my thinking was along the same thread. Are there any key advocacy pieces that we could focus on? And I would definitely lean into that funding, like funding for recovery and the response was tremendous, but the length and the duration and the recovery from the impact is long. Like it will be a long journey. So is there, like, if there's any key real advocacy pieces or points that we as a board and as local governments can just be watching for and support? I'd be curious to hear from you.
Thank you, through the chair. Absolutely. Advocacy on clear and consistent funding for mitigation, clear and consistent funding for recovery. Those are the two. I think EMCR has done a great job of expanding EDMA to align with the Sendai framework, and it also looks at emergency management as 4 phases as opposed to just response. It used to be EMCR was the response, and we're recognizing that that's broadened, their scope is broadened quite a bit. I think we're going to be in recovery more often, more regularly, and for longer periods. So the more that they can see that and put that funding model in place that is in recognition of that same thing for mitigation. We know that for every dollar spent in mitigation, and I know I don't have the facts of where that specific source comes from, but it's $1 for every dollar spent. It's $7 to $11 that you're saving in response or recovery, and I feel like the province could fund better that way. So that's what I would be asking for advocacy.
Thank you. Director, then when we get to my chair's report, I'm actually going to request some guidance based on that committee, and I would really love to make sure that we're on the same page on that RASC, and then I'll ask you for support on what to bring forward. Yeah. Thank you. Paige? No, over here. Oh, we've done it. Okay. But we're on another report that's pretty similar. So this next one, 7.8, this is the after action report. Again, really well done. Do we have questions, comments? I have a few suggestions. Oh, Pop, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not a question, but the feedback that I'm getting from some of the residents, not all, is that the involvement in the after action was not to their satisfaction, but it's individuals. And this is where, when I mentioned having organizations formed, so the individuals can go to those organizations, work with the organization, and I fully understand it is a problem to work with individuals because there's 3,000 individuals or, whatever the amount that were affected. So it's just a comment to work with the organization. So if you need any support from the director for the area, please don't hesitate, call on me. And I can put you in contact with the organizations that are being formed.
Thank you. The only two pieces, and I can email this to you, but it's good to say them in front of the table. One is, I think that the intersection, because we had 3 municipalities that were a part of the emergencies last year, it was a bit of a lesson in action learning. And I think the report was great. Not that I really wanted to have us have to write this report, but it was really, I'm really grateful for the approaches taken and the lessons learned. One of the ones was, I think it would be really helpful for municipalities to have like a flow chart of kind of what we receive at Emergency 101, and a bit of a documented binder that flows with whoever's at their staff level, because sometimes it changes and keeping track of that is difficult. And I also wanted to note that when we have municipal directors at this table that might not be the mayor, we need to also ensure that there's some staff to staff on ensuring that flow is occurring, because we can't always be assuring that a municipal director here is communicating to who a mayor would have to do. And we experienced that. It went well in Silverton, but we have a counselor and the mayor would be the one involved. So just some thoughts on that one. And then the other one was the disaster psychosocial services. Really appreciated understanding. This was something that after Johnson's Landing residents came forward and asked about, and actually were looking for the trauma support of that. And at that time, disasters and everything was all new. I think the one thing I would add to this is that I do think elected officials can sometimes also need that support. So I would request that where applicable, that it gets makes available for elected officials who are involved, or mayors that are also in that realm. So those are my 2 pieces of feedback. Overall, well done. Thank you. Okay, anything else on those reports? All right. We're on to 7.2.1. This is the SharePoint migration pilot project. We have a report. Do we want to open with a motion or questions? I saw Cherie come in. Hi, Cherie. Go ahead, Director Grant.
Thank you. So through the chair, I actually took a quick tutorial on this SharePoint software, and it reminded me of an experience that I had when I worked and somebody brought forward Microsoft Project. And I found with Microsoft Project, like, you had to be in the program to use it. And why it didn't work for my organization at the time that I was involved with was because we weren't asked if we wanted to do it. We were sort of told from the top down, and we didn't have the buy-in. So my question is, have we met with the water services team? Like, is this something like they really want to do? Because if they don't, then it's going to be a tough go.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Yeah, through the chair, we've definitely met with water services, and the reason why we chose them, we did an initial assessment to determine which groups could be viable, and when we met with water services, because they sort of ticked off a lot of boxes for us, they were ready to go. Some of their team was already keen, working with some of the Microsoft 365 tools like Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, so they're kind of dipping their toes in on their own, so we thought it would be a great opportunity to kind of help them push them into a better organized space. So we've got the good buy-in from the managers and from the supervisors from the team. We'll do a lot of training and information sessions with the staff, just so that they're aware, what SharePoint is and this be for some of them. So it won't be, pulling the carpet under. They'll definitely be informed. They'll have a lot of say on what they do, but so far this support's been really positive.
Cunningham, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I think it's a great idea. Will the directors also get some kind of training? Well,
I don't think in the pilot, but go ahead, Sheree.
not now, but I just.
Yeah.
Yeah, the chair, definitely not for the pilot, because we're just looking into it, but I think there could be some opportunity for directors to start integrating the SharePoint. It's sort of a bigger conversation and much further down the road, but ideally, we would like to have all of the organizations with integrated. So.
Thank you.
Would you like to move the motion since you're in favor?
There we go.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Sure.
Thank you. Discussion? Hewitt, yes, go ahead.
Further to Graham's question about buy-in, going beyond water services as the pilot, are the rest of the departments aware that there is the potential for a full-scale change, right? Because it's going to, or they're a pilot in their team, but there's a lot more staff members that aren't in that department.
Yeah, absolutely. Through the chair, it's part of the modernization of the RDCK's infrastructure. That message has been communicated through staff. So just bringing on board Teams, OneDrive, the conversation of SharePoint has always been included as well. So although departments may not know what the larger implementation will look like, I think everyone is getting comfortable with the idea that SharePoint is here, it's coming, we're going to be, modernizing and streamlining and becoming more efficient by utilizing those tools. And a lot of conversations will happen. So the pilot project was a great opportunity to show the organization what we can do with SharePoint, how we can work with automation and workflows. So hopefully that will get some teams excited, but it'll also start those conversations of making sure that people know what this is going to look like. And we've also, started using SharePoint with our intranet to provide resources internally. So SharePoint shouldn't be completely new. I think it'll look different in how each team integrates with it, but everyone should be at least familiar with it now.
Go ahead.
Supplemental, just in wearing one of my other hats, I already work somewhat with SharePoint, and I do see the value.
Right. Sure. Good to hear. Okay, do we have any other discussion before I drink my water? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, 7.2.2, we have the information request policy. This would be for adoption. We did have feedback. Go ahead, Jackman.
Yeah, so I just want to state how much I appreciate softening the wording. I recognize certain terms had to be in there, but the difference between appears to lack sufficient substance, detail, or connection to whatever, versus the earlier wording had no serious purpose or value. Like, to me, that is such an improvement. Really appreciate, because values and judgment of people's values are so sensitive. I really think the update hit the mark. I would move
the motion. Great. Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Lockwood. Further discussion? I'll say I agree. Language is very important. Thank you for that. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 7.2.3, I'm going to just see, we have about 5 minutes until public time. I'm going to see what kind of questions we have. We did have Tom come in the room. There you are. I saw you. This is the annual operations agreement. So as such, it's annual. Do we have any questions? Would anyone like to move a motion? Cunningham? Lockwood? Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Wow, look at that. All right. Keep going. 7.2.
He has work to do.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Sheree. Thanks, Dwayne. All right, stick around, Mike. 7.2.4 position recruitment. This is Jay. Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Go ahead.
I'll move the motion as presented in the agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Director Davidoff had to leave, so thank you. Discussion. Graham, yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So just the question is, what service does this get paid out of?
Oh, it should say.
It should say. You got to ask a hard question.
No, it's a good catch. We should have that in there.
Service 115.
So we're gonna add that 115? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. My goodness. The For Information Quarterly Report, do we have questions? Okay, yeah, Grant.
So we're just.
No, it's
One
okay.
comment, we have 130 items in total, plus 51 capital projects at our normal rate, or what we've been sort of experiencing is about 6 per quarter, which means we're at just about 5.5 years to get this done, so just reiterating.
It is we do want to, can you remind me when we're going to do some work around what could be removed or readjusting this? I believe that was a request in the past, and I know it's on there. I'm just curious where that's at.
Yeah, through the chair, we thought the best time for that would be when we move to the new template for the quarterly report, which would be in the new year.
Okay, I think that would be the first place I would go to, and go ahead, Director Grant.
Just a supplemental, through the chair staff, is when there's no further action taken on a work plan item, how long does it still stay on the work plan?
Go ahead, Mike.
Through the chair, for something that was, a little more, further action.
Okay.
Well, no, I guess typically it would be indicated on one of the websites, that no further action is directed, and then I'll follow it from. Okay, it should be reviewed. If there's ones that should be removed, let me know, and I'll follow up with that.
Thank you. Okay. Let's do it. 7.3.1. We did see Grant come in the room. Hello, Grant.
Hello.
Hello. The report was really well done. Do we have questions? Anything you want to speak to that was not in the report?
The financial plan?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not listening to any questions.
Okay. Go ahead, Graham. No, ask away.
Okay, thank you. So I have curiosity about what is a remote piloted air system. I actually tried to look it up. Like, is it a drone? Like, what is it?
Yeah, teacher, ALPAS is actually the federal aviation or CAA term for drones and small planes.
And supplemental, if I may.
Yes.
So in a bush truck body, like, is that a box for the back of the truck?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Just trying to understand more.
Yeah, there's these are grant funds that we had applied for out on a cycle of the normal budget cycle, so we just have to make amendments to make them fit.
Would you like to move the motion, Director Grant? Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Hewitt. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, for information service case analysis, this is Hills to Summit. Interesting report. Any questions on Tom is back in the room?
See?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Papa.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the laughter to finish.
No problem.
Anyways, my question is to Tom, through the chair, is you've looked at it and, the Hills is establishing a regional district service in Hills is financially next to impossible. The fire brigade, extending the service area from New Denver is also beyond the limits that are required. So I'm glad that you did that analysis, but I don't see too much mention about Summit Lake. Can you expand on that? Because it was a separate consideration, and I don't know if you lumped it in with the Hills Brigade or not.
Go ahead, Tom.
Respectfully through the chair, we were looking at a solution specifically around Hills. I think a Summit Lake response would probably come from the other direction.
Yeah.
Given the degree of resources. Now, what we actually have in the Arrow Creek area around Preston is a response area. So what it is it's a much more limited response. This is not fire protection, which has strict boundaries around it in terms of how long it's going to take to get there and what kind of response they're going to mount, right? In Arrow Creek, what we have is a situation where they say, look, we'll come. We're not going to guarantee when we can get there, but we will come. But it'll probably be 4 guys in a truck, right? 4 guys in an engine. Because they don't wanna pull all their resources out of their core area. And really, in conversations with the community, I spoke with the Hills Volunteer Fire Brigade. And they do a fantastic job in the community there, but what they really wanted to know is if they got in deep, that somebody would be coming to support them. Right, and so what we're really trying to, in the proposal that's on the table, or the idea that's there, it's really a response area. So that those volunteers in the community would know that somebody is coming. Now, the thing about response areas is they generally cost a lot less than a fire protection area, because the scope of service is much reduced, and the number of calls are also greatly reduced.
So, thank you, and a supplemental if I may, has that been explored with the New Denver Fire Department and the Augusta Fire Department?
Respectfully through the chair, I would require direction from them. That's what this report is about. I was asked to investigate options. This is the option I think that the most likely option that the board would like to see staff do a proper service case analysis on. At that point, if the board chooses to proceed with service case analysis, we would begin discussions around what a contract would look like, what the regulatory framework would look like, what the costs associated with this. I would then come back forward with a proper service case analysis, saying, look, this is what the rate looks like, this is what the service area boundary looks like. We could also engage at that point in talking about what coverage over Sun Lake would look like and where that might come from.
So would it be appropriate to move the recommendation that we proceed with that service case analysis for Summit Lake and for Hills?
You could, I do have Mike on the speakers list, so I'm wondering if you just wanna hear from him and then I'll come back to you.
Okay, yep.
Okay, go ahead, Director Fike.
Yeah, through the chair, speaking to the fire department, currently the service area, a contract is about 3 years old. And if there was a new service area agreement, that would be wrapped into another new contract. So that's from the fire department, but it was a good report, and we're willing to negotiate for sure, apparently.
So go ahead, Tom, because there's the current agreement, there's the potential new service, so go ahead.
Two separate agreements,
Yes.
respectfully through the chair, two separate agreements. One is a contract for fire protection. The second is a contract for fire response. There are two separate service areas because there are two entirely different groups of residents and they're receiving different service levels. We don't want to mix apples and oranges here.
Did that, go
But
ahead.
that's a matter for negotiation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Director Fike, go ahead.
Yeah, supplemental, I'll pass that on to the fire department. They were under the impression it could be wrapped into one, but I'll pass that on. Thank you.
Well, I think that, and then Director Popoff's recommendation would then enable staff to go and work those details out, correct? So we wouldn't, I mean, by all means, Director Fike, you can do that, but I think this is where we'd seek direction for staff to make those clarifications. Okay, thumbs up. Popoff, over to you for the recommendation.
Yes, I move the recommendation that we do a service case analysis, as mentioned by Tom, two separate contracts, not to mix contracts at all. We still have to sign the contract with New Denver with the existing contract that's there. We've got the renew of the contract, so that's a separate contract.
Yeah, let's not mix discussion into motions. Let's just get the right motion.
Yeah, through the chair, this report was information just intending to tell the board what our next steps were gonna be, so. If you disagree with it, we could take a different route, but if you're agreeing with the way that we're proceeding in the next steps area, then I don't think a motion is required.
Okay, so let's clarify that you understand what the next steps are.
No, I'm not too clear. But if the, I think what
Let's read
CEO
what
was
the steps
saying
are.
is to do a service case analysis to provide that additional support for Hills and for Summit Lake. Is that good?
Can you just read what the next steps are?
Regional district staff will meet with the Village of New Denver staff to determine Hills fire response boundary, service levels, regulatory authority, and costs. Once the above have been confirmed, staff will produce a service case analysis for consideration by the board.
So that's,
Okay, so that's one part. The other part is Summit Lake and the cusp.
okay, so let's just verify that the next steps are already in queue, so we don't need a motion on those.
Okay.
Now you want to discuss or make a recommendation on Hills, that would be a separate recommendation? Summit Lake, sorry.
Something. Yes.
Okay, is that clear to you, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay, are you seconding that?
I have a question.
Can I get a second first?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, now ask your question.
Yeah, so I see in the report that it is referred to as New Denver Contract Service Area, New Denver Fire Department. It's New Denver and Area Fire Department, to which Silverton is a contract signatory. And that needs to be not overlooked.
Okay. Angela?
I'm just looking for the appropriate wording, so to prepare a surface case analysis to review someone like fire protection or.
Similar to what, we're doing with New Denver, extended coverage out of, Nakusp Fire Department.
Tom, go ahead.
Respectfully through the chair, staff can do something similar to this and then do a service case analysis. The service case analysis would involve us having hard numbers. I think we'll start preliminary investigation now. Come back to the report, similar to this, like what we've done for Hills. And then at that point, we can do a service case analysis because the board would have enough information to say, yes, let's proceed with this, or no, this is not a good idea at this time.
So the motion is to do a preliminary review on the option of a Summit Lake fire service by Nakusp.
Sure.
And the New Denver, we can lump it in and all.
New Denver's already dealt with.
Okay, so, yeah.
Have you got it, Ange?
Working on it.
Do it.
While Angela is working on it, the contract with Silverton and New Denver is separate.
Okay, actually, I'm sorry, I thought that they were both included in this one when I read it. Can I request that you work on the motion and bring it back for September? This is specifically to Hills, and so this is a new project item, and it'd be best if you work on that wording and come back to September.
All I'm asking for is we can get this done, and I've gone through the chair to Tom, is to start conversation with the Nakusp Fire Department of the possibility of doing a service case analysis and come back and bring it to September. If there's no possibility, then we won't do a service.
I think the request is respectfully staff have a large work plan, and it'd be best if this was a separate item so that it can be addressed through all the other things staff are dealing with.
And if I may, the initial request was for Hills and Summit Lake.
Okay. But you don't have a motion prepared and we're doing it on the floor right now. So I'm gonna just say that we've done what we're doing on this. If you wanna go over, if you wanna do a motion and director's motion, that's a notice of motion, that's where we'll put it in the latter part of the agenda.
Okay.
Okay. The original motion that was seconded, I'm just gonna ask for that to be withdrawn because it was inaccurate. Okay. So Ange will just ask them to do a notice of motion in the director's section. Thank you. Just need to respect staff's work plan and ensure that we're doing it cohesively. Okay. Thank you. We're at public time. Thank you, Tom. So I'm gonna go to our member of the public in the room and also alternate director Woodward, by all means. Would you like to ask us a question? You're welcome to come up, or if you don't have to either.
No, I'm with Kootenay Chamber of Commerce and we've been happy, and I'm here to learn and listen and say thank you to everyone, including our director, Jackson.
Thank you for being here. Okay, great. Thanks for being here.
I'm good, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Director Woodward, or Councilor Woodward, alternate director Jackie. Is there anybody online from the media or the public who would like to ask us a question at this time? You're welcome to unmute. Not seeing anyone, I'll ask another time. Anyone from the public or the media that would like to ask us a question? Okay. How about we do the grants motions and then we'll. Someone like to move those motions? Lockwood, Jackman, discussion? This is discretionary, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Community development.
So moved.
Thank you. Hewitt, second. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Financial service amendment. I'll move this one. This is Lardo Valley. Oh, right. Sorry, this is our EDC one. So Dr. Hewitt, do you want to move that one?
Yes.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Good. All right. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Fouquier Community Club, go ahead, Director Weatherhead.
As I'll pass as Karen can't speak right now.
No problem. The motion, all right.
The motion.
Do we have a second? Thank you, McLaren Co. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, I think we could go ahead with our chair and CAO reports.
Yep.
Okay. So I will reference the EDMA working group. I believe I put a written report in on that one. I can check the agenda. Did that a while ago. But first, I'll just start with some of the things that occurred this month. I was grateful to attend the provincial announcement of the Health IM app, I'll call it, in Nelson last week with the MLA/Minister Anderson, Mayor Morrison. What I can share, which was, it was super fascinating to attend, was able to speak to one of the people from the health authority end of it that was part of the development. It was launched independently in 3 other municipalities across the province. I think Prince George was one of them. And it demonstrated the effectiveness of it. Essentially what it does is it's not replacing actual care. It's not replacing people. There's no AI being used in it, so everyone's data is protected. What it does is when you have a police response to an incident and it involves mental health considerations, this directly connects to those health professionals that are trained in mental health and can ask the right questions to expedite an intake at the hospital that then relieves the police officer from being the one that has to sit with the person. So in the original launches of independent ones, so this is the first for the province to be really involved in. And so Nelson's the pilot. They found that it was really effective at reducing the time that police were sitting at the hospital and also reduce the impact to someone who might be needing response, but not police response, actual support response. So it was really wonderful, and I'm happy to share that they indicated, speaking to the chief for our kind of collective areas, including Caslow, it looks like they'll be releasing it in the next few years throughout the province to all our CMP and municipal detachments. The province has put 2 million into it. So I really appreciated being able to attend that. And I made notes. All right, the report on the EDMA working group, there's 2, the other one I'll reference later in the agenda. I just wanted to make sure that you are aware of the work. We are getting to a point where we will be reviewing the regulations themselves. I'm very much wanting to check in with you as it's an interesting place because when we're at the table, it's staff and elected officials. So East Kootenay's equivalent to Dan, Christina is there, and it's a really interesting conversation of elected official and staff. I think it's really comprehensive. But one of the things I have been strongly advocating for is that if you require us to have new authorities, you need to follow that with funding and adequate funding. The other component has been really encouraging for them to recognize how much time is spent in administrating grants and applying for grants and chasing grants. And my feedback to them was, if it's considered a core requirement from your perspective, as an authority you're delegating to us, then the funding has to be considered a core element, and you need to simplify that funding process. I'm all for metrics and accountability, but not for our staff spending this significant more in administration to try and get the money. So when I do have those meetings, I'll share the agendas with Stuart and Dan and just see if there's any feedback from them. And then I'll also send the notes. I don't provide all the notes in an open because as regulations are developed, the province does request them to remain in camera, so to speak. So the stuff that I can share in camera will be in camera. But that's the report on that one. So from an advocacy perspective, I wanted to make sure that that aligns with the board, what my message has been. I assume so because budgets are really, we're very cognizant of them. And also as things come up, I think I would like to see some more work where we actually go as an entity to meet with the MCR and minister responsible to talk about, we're not going to debate how important it is to be prepared and how important it is to be ready to respond and all the needs, but we are going to debate the cost of doing so, and that we are a public entity that requires public feedback. And when things are less and less discretionary, it's very difficult to approve budgets that we don't actually have a discretion on. So it's kind of the approach I've taken. Any feedback, and if you want to do it offline, you're welcome to. Okay. I'm just gonna double check that I covered everything. Looks to be, I think so. Chair or? Yeah.
Not a chance. Through the chair, I don't have much. I was on vacation for half the time between meetings and then jumped right into agenda prep and prepping for this meeting, so I don't really have anything to do.
Okay, look at that. 2 extra minutes for your lunch.
We can do rural affairs.
Oh, can we?
You can have dreams.
I don't think we can.
We can wait.
We'll wait. Thanks, Director Fife. We'll see you in an hour. All right, welcome back, everybody. I think everybody is here, minus Director Davidoff. We have Director Fike. We'll watch for Davidoff to join. Okay, rural affairs, number 8. Over to you, Director Jackman.
2.5 minutes, you said. So, yesterday we had 9 recommendations from Rural Affairs Committee. I'm gonna do 2 blocks and 1 individually. I think will work best. As always, Rural Affairs Committee has delegated authority to receive landowner delegations to either explain their application or then any action being taken. Yesterday we had 2 landowners with us, 2 of the applications, Amy Randall, item 7.2, and Mace 7.3. So I'd like to move the first 4 recommendations as a block. All of them are all vote. The first and second one are arising from item 7.1. First one is a notice on title on land at 741 Waterloo Road, as described in the agenda. The second one is removal of the notice on title on 749 Waterloo Road and grading of the piece. The next one is item 7.2 in area G, and that's to approve the site-specific floodplain exemption as described in the 4th one in this block is in area F, Mace, and that is to direct staff to complete the notice of zoning bylaw amendment prior to the September Rural Affairs and to look into options for restrictive covenants to go along with the application. So I move those 4 as a block.
Okay, great. With the second, thank you. And do you anyone want to pull any of those? Okay, discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Director Davidoff is with us now.
So the 5th one I'd like to move separately, just tiny preamble in my 2.5 minutes. We've discussed that there's a time limitation on the actions that are associated with this public consultation plan. The limit of December 31st, 2025. So I can move the motion as worded. It captures most of the conversation, but I'd like to then clarify that as a separate direction to staff after that.
Thank you.
I'd like to move this, the board endorse the proposed consultation plan as worded.
Do we have a second? Thank you. Honegraph, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And then I thought we should capture the direction of staff because there's only so much time to review, complete the minutes, bounces between departments sometimes and to be able to get it on the merged agenda. So I don't see where we capture the direction of staff to consult with provincial reps to obtain an extension to the 31 of December 2025 deadline for doing this work. So I was hoping we could just capture that in these minutes as a direction of staff.
Yeah.
Thanks. And then the next 4 I'd like to move as a block again. These are all to do with the planning services work plan review. So that's recommendation 6, 7, 8, 9 on this agenda, and they are all to indicate the preference for the planning activity to take place with respect to OCD updates. So I move these 4 as a block.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Graham. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank
My
you.
apologies, that took 3 minutes.
I noticed. No, I'm kidding. I did not. Okay, Director Popoff, you have a motion, 9.1. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. The recommendation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Standby generator project.
The standby generator.
Oh,
so
I went
do is a
straight.
separate.
So it was 6, 7, and 8, and then 6, 7, and 8 as a
6,
block.
7, and 8, and 9, I
Sorry,
did
Pop.
describe as a separate community works fund application. Wasn't clarified at all, as the others are.
Yeah, oh, yes, yes.
So that would have been part of the block. Apologies for not describing that.
Oh, it was a part of the block.
Well, I had said 6, 7, 8, 9.
You had,
I didn't
yes.
flip the page and describe that.
Okay. Ange, do you have that? Yes.
The blocks, they just show up as carried unless we pull them.
Oh, okay. We're good? Okay. Sorry, over to you, Popoff now, 9.1.
Yeah, just a comment on the last one, would have saved $20,000 in committee work funds. But anyways, it was required, not even I'm talking about.
Okay.
Anyways, the recommendation I have that the board directs staff to prepare a recreation and parks community advisory committee bylaw that includes Slocan Valley and Area H South.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you. Len, discussion? Graham and then Jackman.
Thank you. So through the chair, like which service would this be applicable to?
Go ahead, Ange.
Through the chair, the regional committee, the regional accessibility. The recreational parks community advisory committee bylaw would be very similar to our water service advisory committees. Whereas there's the Schedule A that determines which services choose to be part of that advisory committee. So at this time, there's been conversations, Joe could go into more depth if needed, with the Slocan Valley and Area H South, who are looking to go to an advisory committee and follow that direction instead of the commission. So
It was-
Joe, please let me know.
Previously a commission that was disbanded and changing to the CAC model. And I believe it's service 208.
Yeah, so through the chair it would likely start with service 231, recognition Slocan and defined H7.
Okay.
Jane?
So,
yeah,
through the chair, there's also an area in Area South, so there's a few things just the advisory committee actually ties into the new services committee, so for that functioning body as well. So those kind of things work together. In our regional park services, for example, we have actually four regional parks in Area H South, but only one with a commission. So the advisory committee would also be expected to provide information and comments on Cristobal Regional Park, Crescent Valley Beach Regional Park, the south, what used to be called the South Slocan old schoolhouse, which is now being developed into a park, and also Campbell Fields. So there's a number of different things. That area has changed quite a bit the last 5 years. And so there's some need to try to find a different governance model for that. And the advisory committee is choosing to be a very good method for that. So Recreation Commission number 8 is the committee that's been investigating this. And this has actually been done through them. And this is what they would like to see them move to. We're actually hoping that will be an opportunity to structure that kind of feedback differently, so that it's more interactive with the public and less formal and heavy governance tone that a commission has.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Paige on the motion?
I was just curious about our community services existing bylaw and whether or not this is something that could be fitting inside of that and remain flexible without having to create more legislation.
This is a community advisory, so it's not our governance, it's the community being able to provide input into those services. So it wouldn't be a community services bylaw. This is a commission that has been changed to an advisory model, so it has more flexibility in terms of that function and form. But it's a community feedback piece. So it's members of the public that are a part of it.
Yeah.
Who? Oh, Jackman, I'm sorry. Thanks. And can we focus on the CAC was recommended by the commission, and so let's not go down rabbit holes. Go ahead.
This is a very shallow rabbit hole. Please copy me on this correspondence because Rec 9 asked for this a decade ago.
Right.
It was stripped out of Rec 9 and it's never money. So love to be copied on what comes out of this, and then some very many regional parks have this.
Papa?
Just to close on that, one of the problems that we were having was having meeting quorums and the legislative ability to meet a quorum. So we could not get anything done, and we're looking at establishing one advisory committee. I ran it by our Slocan Valley Services Committee. They were in support of that, so we're moving forward on that to have it established, and we will look at the details once Angela and Mike develop a draft policy for us.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
So at this time, a director's notice of motion is what you mentioned. Would that be the opportunity to do that now?
Yes, the notice of motion that's on here from Director Vandenberg is just for FYI. It will be on next month's agenda. Stuart?
And through the chair, I confirm that Summit Lake is on the work plan. So there'll be a report forthcoming, so no motion is needed for that.
That's
There you
what I
go.
was trying to explain earlier.
Good.
So it's already on the work plan, so there's no need for a notice of motion. It was just omitted in that report, and I will follow up with Tom Dew
No problem.
offline and to see when he has time to
Okay,
do that work.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just didn't want to skip the order of the agenda. That's why I went to Vandenberg for a second. Okay, so we are on the consent agenda. It's a good connection here, Director Page, if you wanna, and you may be familiar with it or not, the CACs as their term, Community Advisory Committee. We started with our water services, so you'll see a lot of those minutes in here, and that's the same model that those commissions are moving to, if it's helpful. Anything in the consent agenda that needs to be pulled for discussion? Okay. Accounts payable, Director Graham, I know you submitted questions. I know there was answers, but do you have more? Do you want to ask them now? Anyone else?
Thank you. So through the chair, I just noticed I felt like there was a change or something happened because there was only 6 top 80% payments. So I sent an email to you saying like, why are there only 6? Because there's payments in the lower that were higher than the lowest one. So he did respond, and I don't know, there seemed to be some error or something there. So just if anyone else picked that up, that was.
Through the chair, I would expect there to be a lower amount of payments in the 80% this month because of the 6.2 million that was sent to Castlegar for their borrowing.
Yeah.
So that's going to reduce it. But yeah, the way the report was prepared was based on individual payments to vendors and the top 80% individual payments, not top 80% total payments. So for example, BC Transit, those 2 payments that amounted to $261,000, both of those individually would have been higher, 130, 120. But then the 9 payments that totaled 202 that are in the lower part, those would have been $30,000, $40,000. So they got put down below. So yeah, you have to acknowledge that we're going to make that change for next month. So you're not going to see vendors in 2 different spots. We'll do it by vendor.
Yeah, I see you turned your camera on. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Through the chair, no, just listening and seeing if there's any other questions that Stuart hasn't addressed.
Okay, you're good, Graham. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Yev. Director reports have been received. We're not doing verbal reports this month. We did them last month, right? Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. We've done public time. We are moving into in-camera. Where's my thought we were going to take on that, but okay. I will take a motion to close the meeting to the public. Thank you, Director Main. Seconded DeBoon. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And I will take a motion to recess open meeting. Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So anyone online for staff, if you're staying in the meeting, please turn on your cameras.